Huang Yueli's consciousness slowly became blurry from the kiss. This bloodlust kiss caused her heart to go into a frenzy, and she devoted herself into it as well. The kiss was so intense that she lost her strength to hold on to the bottle. 7 different colored pills slipped from her fingers and rolled into the grass in all directions. Some pills rolled further and further away until its whereabouts were lost. However, no one paid any attention to those pills. As the kiss deepened as time went by, Huang Yueli felt that the pain on her lips and tongue had become numb to the extent that she couldn't feel any more discomfort. At this point of time, her breathing was become erratic and slowly felt stuffed, causing her entire face to turn red, to the point of being suffocated. She pushed Li Moying away, this time not to avoid his kiss but purely to retain her life. Her hope was not to be reborn and hadn't had the chance to exact revenge before she died. What's more, the cause of death in this lifetime was due to a kiss. Although she tried her very best to struggle, Li Moying refused to budge, so she had no choice. As for those who were hiding in the woods nearby, they were completely stupefied. No one could ever imagine that Li Moying ultimately made a move at Huang Yueli, but the style that the move was made was outrageous and completely beyond anyone's imagination. He actually held tight of Huang Yueli and started to forcefully kiss her. Everyone started to regain their senses after some time, and their faces all reflected sluggish expressions. Did I see wrongly? Senior brother actually forced his kiss on sister-in-law? Your eyes didn't fail you, I saw it too. Master actually didn't strike third miss. When he pulled her over, I thought, it's the end for third miss. I thought he would strangle sister-in-law. In the end. Do they need to be so intimate at this place? These lovey-dovey acts are making us shy. Young Master Luo, don't talk blindly. What lovey-dovey? Can't you see that third miss is going to be suffocated by Master? What should we do now? Rescue her? Are you joking? How do we rescue her? Rush up and pull them apart? Do you think senior brother will let us off? This, Mo Yi and Luo Jiyun exchanged glances and let out a tremble. Although Huang Yueli was safe and sound, deep down in their hearts, they knew if the person who appeared in front of Li Moying was themselves, the result would only be a 10% chance of survival. What can we do now, brother Mo Yi? Luo Jiyun asked as he frowned. Mo Yi lifted his head and heaved a sigh of relief. Not to worry, haven't you noticed? Ever since Master and Third Miss did that, his grandeur had gradually vanished. That's right. Luo Jiyun suddenly saw the light and felt the oppressing feeling they felt earlier had weakened by quite a bit. So, sister-in-law is indeed useful. Now I finally understand, she is truly senior brother's fated one. Senior brother couldn't bear to hurt her and hugged her tightly. Just this alone was enough to oppress his illness. She's more useful than physician Liu's medication. You can also listen on. That's right. Looks like Third Miss is destined to be our mistress. Mo Yi sighed with emotions. Murong and I sneaked a look at the couple in each other's arms, kissing till death do them part. Next she heard Mo Yi and Luo Jiyun's conversation. Immediately her expression changed. She gritted her teeth and etched her fingers deep into her palms, suppressing her depressed feelings. Whenever senior brother relapsed, didn't he not recognize anyone at all? Didn't her father not dare to provoke senior brother as well? Why didn't he attack this vixen? Why? Did he really like her so much that under this sort of circumstances, he could still control his subconsciousness and not hurt her? Impossible. How was this even possible? Senior brother must have not reacted in time. Later he will use his sword and kill this slut. Definitely. Murong and I stared at them with deep jealousy, and couldn't wait to pull Huang Yueli away from her senior brother. She kept chanting in her heart, "Senior brother, quickly chop this vixen. Quickly chop her up." But the scenario that Murong and I had wished for never appeared. Huang Yueli pushed Li Moying's chest, hoping to escape. Li Moying hugged her really tightly. His strong arms and chest was like copper wall and iron bastion, completely unmovable. The more Huang Yueli resisted, the tighter he held. Just as Huang Yueli thought she was about to suffocate, suddenly the strong force around her waist disappeared. She stood startled, not having reacted to what was going on. The next moment, Li Moying totally fell towards her, His entire weight just leaned against her. Huang Yueli was caught unawares and staggered from the weight, almost falling to the ground. She quickly held on to him and shook. Li Moying? Li Moying. What happened to you? Li Moying's weight fell onto her delicate shoulders, not making any movement. Apparently he had fainted. No matter how hard Huang Yueli shook, there was no response, so she stopped shaking him. She suddenly recalled the wound on the back of this man, had yet to recover, and earlier in the day, it had already ruptured once. She wondered if it had ruptured another time when he was invincible earlier. She held her finger to Li Moying's nose to test for his breath and heave a sigh of relief. God bless, there was breathing. So his life should not be in danger for now. Mo Yi and the rest saw what was happening and quickly rushed over. Third Miss, Master, how is he? Yes, sister-in-law, how is senior brother? Is he okay? Huang Yueli said. He seemed to have fainted. There's no response at all. The pills I took from you earlier, he didn't even had a single one. Has his condition worsened or had he gotten a little better? Third Miss, let's find a safer spot first and talk later. Huang Yueli nodded her head. This place was after all near the restricted zone. Although most of the magical beasts had been killed, who knows what dangers might be lurking around. They must leave this place immediately. Mo Yi lifted Li Moying from Huang Yueli's shoulders and Mo jointly helped to carry him. The few of them walked speedily and left this corpses-filled forest. The only safe zone nearby was the campsite where the werewolf mercenaries had set up their camps. Even though a massacre had just happened, they had no choice but to head back there. You can also listen on. Mo and Mo San took on the responsibility to clean up the campsite, throwing the soldiers' corpses into the dense forest. Huang Yueli knelt down beside Li Moying, watching Mo Yi and the rest surrounding him, taking turns to impart their profound energy through his dantian and various meridians in an attempt to control his internal injury. She couldn't bear to leave Li Moying, but Huang Yueli saw the embittered expression on Murong Ni and resignedly stood up and stepped outside to set up the array formation around the campsite. Today's campsite was heavily filled with stenches of blood. If the array formation was not properly set up, it might easily attract high-level magical beasts from afar. What's more, Li Moying really shouldn't be disturbed tonight any further. The array formation setup was especially critical, especially when Huang Yueli could not trust Murong Ni's level of array formation. By the time Huang Yueli had settled the surrounding dangers, she returned to the largest tent in the center of the campsite. Li Moying was lying in the center of a huge beast skin. His face was pale without any traces of blood, his glabella showed faint traces of darkness and his lips, although not pale, were presenting an unnatural purplish color. His brows were tightly knitted together and his body kept twitching, as if he was suffering some unspeakable pain in his unconsciousness. Huang Yueli touched his forehead and realized that his body was terribly cold. If it wasn't for the fact that he was still breathing, one might have thought he was dead. The others were seated surrounding Li Moying, showing sorrowful expressions and discussing softly. Huang Yueli turned to ask Mo Yi, "Brother Mo Yi, Li Moying, how is his condition now? Why did his body turn so cold? And that expression, it looks like. Had he used up all his life source this round? It's all because of me, I got him into this situation, all because he tried to save me." Her emotions deepened and she couldn't speak any further. Upon seeing this, Mo Yi hurriedly said, "Third Miss, please don't say that. You saved Master. Whenever Master acts up, we must wait till 5 a.m. the next day before he becomes normal, but it's only 2 a.m. and he has already quietened down. The credit goes to you, Third Miss." When Mo Yi said these words, there was more hints of respect than usual. In the past, he would show Huang Yueli respect because of Li Moying. In actual fact, he wasn't pleased with her power, but he didn't dare to defy Li Moying's orders. But after what had happened today, he completely understood. The place that Huang Yueli had in his master's heart was not something that a simple sentence like "more important that my life" could describe. When Li Moying's illness acted up, he could control himself and not hurt Huang Yueli at all. What was more shocking was Huang Yueli had just got close to him and that move just miraculously oppressed the enraged Li Moying. If he had not seen this with his own eyes, Mo Yi would never had believe it even if it cost him his life. But now, Mo Yi started to understand that the mistress of the house could be no one else except this third miss who was standing in front of him. Therefore his attitude towards Huang Yueli became more revered. The reason was because he needed to put Huang Yueli on equal standing as Li Moying, to use the same respect he gave to his master, to her as well. Huang Yueli shook her head and said, "I don't know what happened as well. Why did he suddenly regain his normal composure when I didn't even do anything at all? And the main thing is his condition is so terrible now. Will he be able to continue withstanding all these?" You can also listen on. Mo Yi replied, "Third miss, I won't hide from you. Every time after master acts up, his entire body will turn cold and his face turns pale white. This condition will sustain for at least 7 days, so the current symptoms are not weird at all." Only what? Huang Yueli hurriedly questioned. Only this round master had suffered a serious internal injury, so when his symptoms acted up, the repercussions had worsened. I had checked master's meridians and realized that all the meridians in his body had suffered heavy impact. What is worse is his soul had weakened much greater than usual. This is really bad. Huang Yueli frowned. Li Moying's symptoms were very similar to the soul detachment illness, as in it all occurred during a full moon's night, causing them to lose their state of mind. Although it was unknown why his cultivation exploded when his symptoms acted up, but since there was a regularity between the two illnesses, the cause should be similar as well. Huang Yueli guessed that Li Moying's soul might be too weak, which was why he had this illness. If the problem was due to the soul, it was already difficult to treat. Because of the injury he incurred this round, it caused even more damage to his soul. The next time Li Moying suffer another attack during the upcoming full month's night, his injuries would be doubled. Problems related to the soul could affect cultivation. With his outstanding talent, if he could not break out of the 9th degree realm in future because of this injury, then Huang Yueli would never be able to forgive herself. Huang Yueli thought for a while before taking out a large pail of Spirit Saint spring water from the Sky Phoenix ring and left it on the ground. This is the Spirit Saint spring water, especially nutritious for the soul. Let Li Moying bath in it, then let him drink as much as possible, to see if it can help in healing the damage that was inflicted on his soul. As the amount she had taken out was to let Li Moying take a bath in it, it was much more than usual, so she simply used Little Phoenix's bathtub to fill it. Little Phoenix especially loved to bath in the Spirit Saint spring water, so his bathtubs were extremely large in size. Mo Yi and the rest stared dazedly at the bathtub which appeared from nowhere, their eyes filled with admiration. Most people's interspatial rings could only store some pills and spirit stones. Who on earth would store such a huge bathtub, not to mention that this was an especially useless piece of luggage. This proved that the space in Huang Yueli's interspatial ring was exceptionally huge, and to be able to afford such a huge interspatial ring, she must be a tycoon. But why did third miss, sister-in-law, needed to carry such a huge bathtub around? Was it because she had misophonia? Wait, something sounded wrong, she mentioned earlier. Spirit Saint spring water? What water did you say this was? The few of them voiced out in surprise. Huang Yueli looked at them puzzledly. Spirit Saint spring water? This water is especially effective for treating soul damage. Although it's impossible to see immediate results, but if he soaked in it, there should be some obvious effects. And if he were to take this on a long-term basis, slowly but surely his soul should be able to recover by quite a bit. At the very least, that was what happened to her. The expressions everyone showed her looked weird. Huang Yueli said oddly, "What's the matter? Did I say something wrong? Don't tell me he cannot take Spirit Saint spring water." But Mo Yi, you said it yourself, his soul suffered serious damages, so this should be the right diagnosis, right? Mo Yi hemmed and hawed before speaking out, this is the right diagnosis, but you can also listen on. But Huang Yueli's eyes stared wide open. Mo Yi looked at her puzzled face and almost spat out a mouthful of blood. But, third miss, are you mistaken? Spirit Saint spring water. Do you know what is the Spirit Saint spring water? Do you know how valuable and how difficult it is to get it? In the entire Soaring Heavens continent, there are only a total of 3 mouths of spring, and in each mouth of spring, there was only a small pail accumulated each year. All the influential people around fought over it and were only able to get a small bottle, which was being sold at a heavenly price of several hundred thousands of spirit jade. And you're telling me that this huge tub are all spirit saint spring water? How is this possible? Even if we were to accumulate all the spirit saint spring water from the entire continent, I'm afraid it would not even fill up 1/10 of this tub. Hearing you say this, it seemed like that way. Huang Yueli immediately became embarrassed. Ever since the day she found the Sprint Saint Spring, she was apprehensive initially, but later on, she realized that the spring water had an inexhaustible amount with a limitless supply, so she fell into it with the little phoenix. She drank the Spirit Saint spring water daily as if it was normal water and also used it to treat Li Moying's external injuries. As time went by, in her eyes, Spirit Saint spring water was no different from any mountain spring water. And because Li Moying's situation was critical, she didn't put too much thought into it and just brought it out. Now, upon hearing what Mo Yi had said, she realized that bringing out this much Spirit Saint spring water at one go seemed like a universally shocking matter. After which Mo Yi sighed, if it was the real Spirit Saint spring water, even if it was a small bottle, it would be advantageous to Master's injuries, but the problem was where to get it from. Third miss, although this spring water is not the Saint spring water, it still looks extraordinary. Quickly keep it, there's no guarantee that it will not come into use in future. Huang Yueli explained helplessly, this is really the Spirit Saint spring water. Don't nag any further, quickly help Li Moying into the tub and soak in it. According to my experience, although it is wasteful to soak in it, the effect is definitely the best. Mo Yi wiped his sweat. Third miss, please don't joke with me. Even Luo Jiyun chipped in, sister-in-law, senior brother is trembling with cold all over, he cannot be soaked in water, let's just forget about it. He stopped short of saying the more Huang Yueli tried to help, the worse it got. Murong Ni snorted coldly unrestrainedly. Yueli, can you stop pretending? Spirit Saint spring water? And such a big tub. Do you think we are all idiots? You're just a country bumpkin, thinking that you're some big shot? Stop blowing your own trumpet. Luo Jiyun frowned and stopped her from continuing. Junior sister, stop spouting nonsense. Murong Ni was even unconvinced. Fifth brother, whose side are you on? Since when did I sprout nonsense? Don't you know that in senior brother's exhausted condition, he cannot touch water? This is common knowledge. Must she cause senior brother to die before she is happy? Huang Yueli's eyebrows creased. This is really the Spirit Saint spring water, ha. Continue to pretend. Murong Ni glared at Huang Yueli despairingly while secretly feeling happy. Seeing how this vixen acted pretentiously for the past few days and attracting all her senior brother's attention, she wanted badly to make a fool out of Huang Yueli but couldn't find a chance to do it. At last. This round, this country bumpkin tried to pretend to be a tycoon and finally gave the game away. She must grab hold of this opportunity to expose the slutty Yueli and embarrass her in front of Luo Jiyun and the rest. You can also listen on. Huang Yueli glared at her coldly and didn't want to waste the valuable time on treating Li Moying on arguing with Murong Ni. But Murong Ni thought she was feeling guilty and frightened, so she became even more complacent. She sneered, why are you not speaking? Admitting that you're bragging? Hehe, like what I said, God knows where you got this dirty tub of water from, and if one will fall sick from drinking it, if it is really the Spirit Saint spring water, I will kowtow 100 times, with my head banging on the ground, to you. Huang Yueli turned around and gave her a smile, yet not like a smile glance. This is what you said, 100 head-banging kowtows. Don't go back on your words later on and cry when your face is being slapped. Looking at Huang Yueli's expression, Murong Ni's heart suddenly thumped loudly. Since she already put it like that, how could Huang Yueli still display such confidence? Was it because this evil slut had that much confidence? However, this sliver of doubts only lingered for 1 second before she threw it behind. Like what Mo Yi said, even if the entire soaring heavens continent's Spirit Saint spring water was accumulated, it would not even make up 1/10 of the tub. How could Huang Yueli's be real? It was absolutely a lie. Thinking about this, Murong Ni regained her confidence. She sneered again, Will I go back on my words? If you have the ability, show me the proof. If you can prove that this is the Spirit Saint spring water and you can save senior brother, what does it matter if I have to kowtow to you? For senior brother's health, this is only a small thing. Huang Yueli was disgusted by her word. Murong Ni must have thought that she wasn't able to show any proof, so she dared to make such a big promise. Anyway, these are all meaningless words, there's no linkage to money at all. Not only that, she also talked as though she was sacrificing herself for Li Moying's injuries. In actual face, besides the cynical remarks, what help had she rendered? Huang Yueli was unable to express the disgust in her heart, so she said coldly, "Then open your dog eyes wide and look carefully. You tilde 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 tilde." Murong Ni almost flipped out but was stopped by Luo Jiyun. Huang Yueli took a scooped glassful and with one hand, she held the back of Li Moying's neck and lifted his head while the other hand holding on to the glass. "Huang Yueli, how dare you feed senior brother this dirty water?" Murong Ni angrily retorted, "Brother Mo Yi, why are you not stopping her?" Mo Yi didn't look at her and spoke, "Third miss has her own reasoning for doing these." "Yes, junior sister, stop it. Don't disturb sister-in-law giving treatment to senior brother," Luo Jiyun said. Are you all blind? Or have you been brainwashed by Yueli?" Murong Ni was utterly exasperated. However, none of them gave her any notice and looked at Huang Yueli's actions in anticipation. Huang Yueli raised the glass, but it wasn't what everyone had imagined. She brought it next to Li Moying's mouth and gulped a big mouthful of it instead. "Hey!" Luo Jiyun stared with his eyes wide open. The next moment, Huang Yueli lowered her head and sealed her lips on Li Moying's, feeding his the Spirit Saint spring water slowly. Even if there were many pairs of eyes on her, she didn't feel embarrassed. Instead, she took her time and slowly feed mouthfuls of water till the entire glass was finished before she lay his head back, not forgetting to wipe the corners of his lips. "That's done. I estimate that within the time frame of burning an incense stick, the Spirit Saint spring water should take its effect. You can also listen on." Everyone used a shocked expression to look at Huang Yueli. No one had expected that Huang Yueli would take the initiative and feed Li Moying by mouth. Luo Jiyun secretly gave a thumbs up to Li Moying. Deservingly to be called senior brother, his actions were so swift. To think that they were so intimate. No wonder when they first came to the Dark Moon Forest, senior brother introduced her as his fiancé. Mo Yi and the rest were already letting their thoughts running wild, making guesses on when they should change to greet third miss as madam. Huang Yueli did this action subconsciously because this was the method which she had used to feed Li Moying when he was unconscious. She had already knew that in his unconscious state, this man would not possibly take his medication by himself, so she didn't spend any time on hesitating on what to do. By the time she had finished feeding him, she felt the glares from the surroundings and instantly realized that something was not right. "You Li, you're so shameless. How dare you do such a thing in front of so many people?" Even before Huang Yueli had a chance to explain, Murong Ni had already burst out at her in anger. Huang Yueli sniggered at her, "Why am I shameless? Li Moying and I, we are fiancé and fiancé. Moreover, this agreement was set by our parents and matchmakers' words, so whatever we do are absolutely proper. Anyway, it's much better than someone else, whose eyes are often roaming around other people's fiancé. You Li, don't be overly gleeful. You're just engaged. Do you think you can marry senior brother? Let me tell you, in such a reputable sect like ours, parents absolutely cannot decide the sect's disciples' marriage. If you wish to get married, you need to go through the sect. My father will never agree to senior brother marrying you." Huang Yueli smiled slightly, "Don't worry about that, anyway. All I need to do is to grab hold of Li Moying's heart and naturally, he will marry me. If your father does not agree, perhaps Li Moying may resign from the sect instead. I wonder if your father will be willing to let such a genius talent take his leave like that." Murong Ni had wanted to show off her imposing manner and reputation as a large sect's daughter in bid to make her back off. Who was Huang Yueli? Matters concerning the sect did not concern her at all. The innate skill that Li Moying displayed was already at the 9th grade. Perhaps he might be the same as her, having some rare, extraordinary innate skills. No matter how reputable his sect was, to be able to find such an exceptional genius was a huge opportunity that one might wish for in 100,000 years. She could almost confirm completed that all the resources were banked on Li Moying, with hopes that he would become the leader of the entire soaring heavens continent. By then, their sect would follow and soar into stardom. No matter how powerful and strong the sect leader was, they wouldn't dare to do anything to Li Moying. Instead, they would think of many ways to win him over. Not only that, considering the arrogant character of Li Moying, would he allow the woman he loves to gesticulate while talking? Obviously, this was not going to happen. You. Just wait and see. You dared to seduce senior brother, you'd definitely come to no good end. Just wait for my father to come and finish you off. Murong Ni knew what she said was not wrong, but she braced herself to put up a brave front and continued her arrogant ways. She couldn't figure it out. Wasn't Huang Yueli from some village of a small country? How would she know what standing does Li Moying have in the sect? She must have been bluffing her way out, right? Huang Yueli heard her threats but was not threatened a single bit. Instead, she laughed happily. You can also listen on. Murong Ni felt the chills after hearing her laughter and felt something was amiss. Had this vixen been shocked out of her mind? But when Yueli opened her mouth, it gave her a shock instead. You're asking me to wait? Hee, I won't run. After all, I'm waiting for you to kowtow 100 times to me. You're the daughter of a reputable sect, surely you won't go back on your words in front of so many people, right? Murong Ni went into a daze. What do you mean? Huang Yueli turned towards Li Moying and continued, we just made a bet earlier. If I can prove that is the spirit saint spring water, then you'd have to kowtow to me 100 times. Ms. Murong is still so young, yet your memory is so bad. Of course I said that, but are you treating me like an idiot? If you really had the saint, Murong Ni sneered, but as she was talking halfway, her eyes popped out in shock. The others also set their sights on Li Moying's face, and their expressions were flabbergasted. Earlier Li Moying's glabella had turned dark, his lips were purplish reflecting the typical signs of soul damage. But now within a short span of a quarter of an hour, the dark energy that were gathered in between his brows had distinctively lessened and was constantly decreasing. Even the purplish color on his lips were becoming lighter. Very obviously, the injury inflicted on his soul had started to take a good turn. How could this be possible? Mo Yi stared in awe. Luo Jiyun's mouth opened wide. Don't tell me that this is the real deal. How is this possible? Such a big tub of spirit saint spring water? How much would this cost? Is this a matter of money? In the entire soaring heavens continent, where on earth would you be able to find so much saint spring water, even if you had the money? But, besides the spirit saint spring water, what else would be effective for the treatment of soul damage? They looked at one another in dismay but could not find the answer. To be able to take effect so quickly, besides the spirit saint spring water, there could be nothing else. And if there was, it could only mean that the spring water was much more valuable than the spirit saint spring water. Such a big tub would be worth even much more money. In this moment, the looks that everyone shone upon Huang Yueli was more complicated than usual. Where did this local tycoon appear from? Didn't they say she was just a country bumpkin from a neighboring small country? Why was it that she had several thousand times more money as compared to these disciples from a major reputable sect? This was simply outrageous. How could anyone believe this? And where did she get so much saint spring water from? Who would have guessed that Huang Yueli actually had the heaven-defying god relic Sky Phoenix ring? Seeing that everyone's jaws were almost dropping to the group, Huang Yueli curled up her lips and gave a smile. All right, as for the source of the saint spring water, it's confidential. Anyway, what you all need to know if I never speak without thinking, so this is absolutely the spirit saint spring water. But don't think that the effect is very good just after one glass. The road to recovery is extremely slow, especially in the later stages. A complete recovery path is arduous, so we must continue to let him drink the saint spirit water daily. Mo Yi didn't know how to reply. Who doesn't know that continuously drinking it would increase its efficiency? But, how many people are able to afford this luxury of drinking the spirit saint spring water daily? His mouth twitched and finally found his voice. This, to drink it every day, a small pail would suffice. We'll use a vessel to pack it up. As for the rest, third miss, please keep it safe. This is very valuable, so please don't waste it. You can also listen on. Huang Yueli shook her head and said, no need. This Saint Spring water is used for bathing. Did you think I will feed Li Moying with bath water? Mo Yi, Mo and Mo San's heads was full of black lines. Bath water, bath water, bath water. So this priceless spirit Saint Spring water was only bath water in third Miss's eyes. What was this feeling of spitting out blood? Mo Yi chuckled, third Miss, how could the water you fed master be bath water? This is spirit Saint Spring water. Huang Yueli smiled and took out a wooden pail from the sky. The effect from drinking Saint Spring water directly may not be as well. What I'm giving Li Moying is medicinal wine made out of spirit Saint Spring water. Its healing efficacy is several times higher. As for this leftover ordinary water, we'll just use it for bath water. A fleet of crows went flying by their heads, everyone had the same thoughts in mind. So, Saint Spring water could also be brewed into wine as well. The aroma of the wine drifted through the wooden pail and smelled especially fragrant. Something was wrong. What was ordinary water? And what was used as bath water? Huang Yueli saw the crowd's expression was as if they were struck by lightning and became speechless. She clapped her hands and said, all right, snap out of your daze. Didn't you see Li Moying's condition? Stop wasting time. Strip him of his clothes and leave him in the bathtub to soak. Let's hope this can temporarily control his injuries. When day breaks, we'll think of other ideas. These few people snapped out of their shock, clumsily stripped Li Moying of his clothes and carried him into the bathtub. Looking at the motionless Li Moying, besides being worried, there was a sense of melancholy all around. This bath of Li Moying's had washed away how many hundred thousands of spirit jades. Even if Li Moying's life was priceless in their eyes, but everyone still felt a sense of overtaxing a heavenly item. What a waste to burn money. As Li Moying was bathing, the group's only two females instinctively left the tent. Murong Ni was pretending to be a virtuous young lady, whereas Huang Yueli was indifferent about the whole thing. When she was treating Li Moying's injury several days ago, she had already seen everything. Speaking of this, Li Moying's figure was very good, his muscles were firm but not too overbearing and there was no extra fats anywhere. Every single muscle line eluded power and sexiness, full of masculine temptation. He looked exactly like a perfect sculpture with his glowing jade-like skin. If it wasn't for the fact that this man was injured, and he laid unconscious all this while taking up all her attention to care for him, she would have taken the opportunity to feel him up. The so-called vanity was present in everyone. But this man was way too handsome, simply causing people to commit a crime because of his beauty. Although she wanted to look at him much longer, but in front of so many people, Huang Yueli thought she should tone herself down a little. What's more, Murong Ni had already ran away, and she was waiting to retrieve her debt, so of course she would follow suit. Murong Ni's face blushed as she ran out of the tent, and heard the voice of the person she hated the most. Murong Ni, why are you running away? Are you trying to deny your debts? Yueli, what do you want now? Murong Ni almost jumped. Huang Yueli lazily smiled and said, second miss of the Murong family, these words that you spoke are very interesting. Are you having a memory lapse? What do I want? I'm waiting for you to offer your 100 head-banging kowtows. You can also listen on. Murong Ni had not expected that Huang Yueli would dare to chase after her to make her kowtow. No matter how she saw it, Huang Yueli was just a first-degree realm practitioner with no background. Considered it as her good luck to find a spirit Saint Spring, that was just ***** luck. Huang Yueli should at least have some self-reflection and knew that she could not afford to offend a reputable sect's daughter like herself, Murong Ni. Are you joking? Murong Ni hesitated a little before she started to laugh out loud. Huang Yueli replied indifferently, I'm sorry but I don't have the habit of telling jokes. Murong Ni was still laughing continuously. Li, I can't help but admire your guts. Who had given you that much guts to ask me to kowtow? Can't you see your own status? I had given you face in the past because senior brother was smitten with you. Did you think I was afraid of you? Now that senior brother had yet to awaken, shouldn't you behave yourself by tucking your tail between your legs and stop finding trouble with me? I'm finding trouble with you. Do you need me to remind you? You're the one who offered to kowtow to me 100 times. I did not force you to do so. The way Huang Yueli looked at her was as if she was watching a comedy. Murong Ni flew into a rage upon hearing what she said. I did say that, so what? If it wasn't for senior brother, would you have any way to make me kowtow to you? Can you beat me? Did you think fifth brother will help you? Mo Yi and the rest would dare to press my head down to kowtow to you? Hey, you're thinking way too much. I am after all the second miss of the Murong family. Without senior brother's personal order, they wouldn't dare. Huang Yueli stared at her coldly and shrugged her shoulders after she had finished talking. Alright, since your skin is so thick that the words you said is like passing gas, what else can I do? Murong Ni thought Huang Yueli was scared stiff by her and snickered complacently. Trust you to be tactful. Come to think of it, that day at the mountain cliff, you were the one to push me, causing me to fall down. I think, you probably won't dare to admit this in front of everyone, right? If I were to tell everyone the truth, I wonder what they would think of you. Based on this, you're the actual culprit who caused Li Moying's serious injuries. And if your senior brother were to find out that you pushed me down, what would happen? Aya, thinking about this makes me feel frightened. But I'm an honest person, unlike you who suffers amnesia, so naturally I will tell everyone nothing but the truth. Huang Yueli started mumbling to herself as she walked towards the tent. Before her fingers could reach the hanging screen, Murong Ni had shot forward and blocked her from entering. You Li, stop right there. Huang Yueli stopped in her tracks and innocently asked, what do you want now? I'm not finding trouble with you already, so why are you blocking me for? You, what did you say just now? Murong Ni glared menacingly at her. Huang Yueli replied, did I just say anything? Why would you care about what I said? Quickly let me pass. I want to see how Li Moying is doing now. Since we're already engaged, I should take good care of my fiancé. Huang Yueli had no intentions to accept the engagement with Li Moying. Until now, she had yet to change her mind. But in front of Murong Ni, she could not help but to consider herself as Li Moying's fiancé. You can also listen on. Huang Yueli felt that this feeling wasn't envy and it would definitely not be jealousy. If she must put a word to it, it should be to teach Murong Ni a lesson for being a pathetic moron. It was because Murong Ni had secretly admired Li Moying, so in order to piss her off, she said it on purpose. After Huang Yueli found a legit reason, the words she said later on were even more infuriating. My fiancé is loyal and affectionate to me, even though he was in a delirious state. He could not bear to hurt a single strand of hair on me. Sigh, where can anyone find such a good man? I must stay by his side and not leave him. Murong Ni's head was fuming with smoke. How could she be so complacent? Senior brother had never bothered to lay an eye on any ladies. Why was he so dedicated to her? This could not be true, not true. Murong Ni couldn't wait to slap Huang Yueli to death, but she dare not. Huang Yueli calmly showed off her endearing love and raised her hand to open the hanging screen, but she was stopped by Murong Ni again. Hold on, you Li, stand still. I'm asking you, what were you murmuring about earlier on? What did I say? Huang Yueli blinked her doll-like eyes with an innocent blank look, as if she had lost her memories. Murong Ni gritted her teeth. You said I pushed you down the cliff and you were going to tell brother Mo Yi and the rest. And tell senior brother. Huang Yueli replied with a pure and innocent expression. That's right, that's the truth. You did push me down the mountain cliff. An honest person like me cannot lie. I won't lie about such things and will tell the truth. Pretend. Her pretense was so real. Murong Ni almost crunched her silver tooth. What about truth and what about not knowing how to lie? She was now saying she's an honest person. But when she laid traps for others usually, why wasn't her honesty reflected? Now she was going to tell the truth according to the facts. Murong Ni wished she could sew up Huang Yueli's lips or erase that part of her memory so that she could never say out the truth. If Mo Yi, Luo Jiun, and the rest found out that Huang Yueli was pushed by her, they would definitely push the blame on Li Moying's injuries on her. If Huang Yueli had not fallen off the cliff, Li Moying wouldn't have gone to save her, and he wouldn't get injured. And he wouldn't be late in reuniting with Mo Yi before his illness acted up. If Li Moying found out about this matter, it would be even more horrifying. Till now, Li Moying had thought that it was Huang Yueli who lost her footing and fell off the cliff. Just that alone was enough to earn a lecture from him and almost a slash from his sword. If he knew about the truth, wouldn't he just chop her up? Thinking back on the cold expression he showed while slashing his sword at the magical beasts, Murong Ni couldn't help but secretly let out a shiver. No way was she letting Huang Yueli tell out the truth. Murong Ni tried hard to oppress her fury and despondent, and bowed her head towards Huang Yueli. You, Ms. Yu Li, please don't ever say out the truth. Actually you know that I had really pushed you by accident. I never wanted to push you down the cliff. But if you were say this, senior brother and the rest would surely misunderstand, so please help me keep this a secret. Murong Ni bit hard on her teeth and hissed out these words from slits between her teeth. You can also listen on. Huang Yueli had been killed several thousand times in Murong Ni's heart. She had thought that by lowering her pride and using a meek tone to speak to Huang Yueli, that would made her accept the kindness she had shown and subsequently do things for her. Who knew? Huang Yueli's lips curled upwards only. Is this the attitude you show when you're asking for a favor? Murong Ni stood stunned, and for an instant, she thought she heard wrongly. What this vixen meant was, could it be that she was unwilling to do as she said? How could this be? She had already lowered her tone and spoke nicely to her. How dare this vixen not give her any respect? Murong Ni stomp her feet in anger. You Li, did you think that I'm begging you? What I'm telling you is it doesn't help to blow matters bigger, as there's no advantage to it. I am senior brother's master's daughter. Even if he knew I was the one who pushed you, what can he do to me? What's more, it was unintentional. I just felt that since senior brother is already injured, we shouldn't talk about these small issues to affect his recovery. Huang Yueli sneered at Murong Ni's words. Did she think that everyone were idiots? Since you're so confident that Li Moying would not blame you, then why are you stopping me? Move aside, I want to go in. Murong Ni snarled. You Li, if you refuse to take the easy way, we'll do it the hard way. Huang Yueli didn't pay any attention to her, and using her footworks, she made a turn and routed past her. Murong Ni was exasperated and without thinking, struck out a palm strike towards the back of Huang Yueli. When she struck, she had not thought that she would miss. Because no matter how formidable Huang Yueli was in other aspects, it was the truth that her cultivational level was not high. Considering the difference in their cultivation levels, Murong Ni felt she would be able to kill Yueli with one slap. Huang Yueli frowned as she felt the tremendous vibrations of the profound energy behind her. A fourth-degree realm practitioner. Indeed, it would be hard for her to fight against it. Only, she didn't need to deal with it herself. Huang Yueli concentrated on her thoughts and brought out the little vulture from the sky phoenix ring. Murong Ni never expected her miss and the appearance of a magical beast which was taller than a normal man's height. Chirp chirp. Little vulture's appearance was very sudden, so it felt lost momentarily, but it quickly reacted to Huang Yueli's orders and pounced towards Murong Ni. What is this? A golden-colored vulture was charging towards her, and this made her turn pale with sudden fear. Although the little vulture was just born, because it had the bloodline of the white-winged golden-crested vultures, and Huang Yueli kept feeding it with spirit saint spring water and medicinal herbs from the ring, it had already derived the strength of the fourth tier. Fourth-tier magical beasts were equivalent to the fifth-degree realm practitioner in the human world. Murong Ni was just a flower vase who had the cultivation but lacked actual battle experience. Because of this reason, she didn't have any ability to ward off the little vulture's attacks and was repeatedly falling back. Get lost, quickly get lost. Help. Stupid bird, stinky bird, quickly go away. Unfortunately, the little vulture only took orders from its mistress, totally ignoring her screams and continuing to attack her. The noise from the conflicts was so loud that it caught the attention of those in the tent. The men had thought the both of them had met with danger and quickly ran outside. "What's the matter? What happened? Sister-in-law, junior sister, what happened to you ladies? You can also listen on." The few of them ran out of the tent and saw Murong Ni being attacked by a fourth-tier magical beast. Their expressions changed instantly. "Why is there a magical beast here? Hadn't the beast diversion array been set up already? Stop talking, let's save junior sister first." While they were discussing, they were prepared to take action. Huang Yueli hurriedly stopped them. "Wait. This is my magical beast, who dares to touch it?" "Huh? What?" In front of everyone's dazzled look, Huang Yueli snapped her finger and ordered, "Zhao Cai, come back here now." Upon hearing these words, the little phoenix who had been hiding in the Huang Yueli's collarband almost spat out a mouthful of blood, feeling as though there were 10,000 heads of long-necked creatures came running over. "Oh my good, this lord's little brother is called Zhao Cai? Had this female devil gone crazy thinking about money? But still, his name is as unpleasant as mine. No. It's worse than mine, that's right. If it was better sounding than mine, where should this lord place my face?" Having living with this black-bellied master, Huang Yueli, for over a month, Little Phoenix had learnt what was psychological success method. Little Vulture did not have as many ideas as Little Phoenix. After all, it was just an infant which was just born not too long ago, so it could not differentiate the good and bad of a name. So when it heard its master's calling, it diligently ran back towards her, resting with its head on Huang Yueli's neck and quietly knelt beside her feet. How many times had the dazed expression hung on everyone's face today? Luo Jiyun finally found his eyeballs that had fallen onto the ground and giving a dry laugh. "That? Sister-in-law, may I ask, what is that?" "My spiritual pet." Huang Yueli replied. "Hihi, it's so obedient, of course it's a spiritual pet. May I ask what species is this spiritual pet?" Huang Yueli rolled her eyes at him. "You don't even recognize it. The white-winged golden-crested vulture should be that rare of a magical beast, right? There are plenty of illustrated handbooks which introduce this magical beast." "Hee, so it's the white-winged golden-crested vulture. Right, I was thinking the outlook is so special, it must be the white-winged golden-crested vulture." Luo Jiyun gave a few more dry coughs. His heart, however, was in a frenzy. Seeing how Huang Yueli spoke in a casual manner as if it was just a normal first-tier magical beast. In actual fact, it was the offspring of a seventh-tier magical beast. Huang Yueli actually adopted the infant of a seventh-tier magical beast as her spiritual pet. Heavens knew, even in such a reputable sect like theirs, the disciples were not able to get such a high-level magical beast's offspring as their spiritual pet. Huang Yueli was just in the first-degree realm. How did she possibly get such a high-quality spiritual pet? How did she manage to make that pact successfully? But this was the truth, and Huang Yueli made it sound very normal that there was nothing amazing about the offspring of a seventh-tier magical beast. What he didn't knew was, Huang Yueli had indeed feel that the little vulture was indeed very ordinary. With Little Phoenix around, Little Vulture was not even considered as an underling. To be more precise, she had just conveniently adopted a spiritual beast only. Mo Yi and the rest had no strength at all to be surprised at anything when it came to Huang Yueli. In actual fact, everyone were slightly numb to the fact that whatever extraordinary matters that fell upon Huang Yueli were actually all very normal. You can also listen on. What could they do, since she was personally chosen by Li Moying? They could only say, Li Moying's aesthetics were perfectly normal. Too normal that the woman he had his eye on was ridiculously strong and black-bellied till others could spit out blood, and was a perfect match with him. As for the fact that they first felt this couple was a mismatch, they could only blame themselves for being blinded in the first place. Huang Yueli kept Little Vulture and turned towards Murong Ni. Earlier when Murong Ni was being chased by the Little Vulture, she was pushed onto the ground and ended up in mud. Her face was perched by the Little Vulture and blood was dripping out of the deep gash on her face. She climbed up pathetically, and when her hand touched her face, Her eyes were filled with fear when she saw her hand filled with blood. My face. What happened to my face? You Li, how dare you hurt my face, I'll fight it out with you. Murong Ni pounced over intending to strangle her neck, but Huang Yueli shifted herself and moved aside. Just in that instance, Mo Yi had already moved himself in front of Huang Yueli. Murong second miss, don't be rash. Master is still lying inside. That's right junior sister, don't be overly excited. What happened between the two of you? How did you start quarreling? Murong Ni furiously spat out, Mo Yi, move aside, I must kill her. Didn't you see, my face has been injured by her spiritual pet. If it leaves a scar, won't I be disfigured? All of you have been deceived by her, she is a ruthless and cold-hearted woman who keeps trying to harm me. Huang Yueli raised her eyebrows and slowed uttered, now I finally understand what is a thief calling thief. If it wasn't for my spiritual pet, I would have been hurt by your sneak attack, and now you're claiming that I'm trying to harm you. Could there have been a funnier joke than this? In that instance, everyone's mind wandered away. Zhao Cai. They really didn't hear it wrongly. That valuable golden vulture baby was called Zhao Cai. They could only offer tears of sympathy. To suffer so much pressure at such a young age, poor thing. It was only after a while more that everyone reacted to the true meaning of Huang Yueli's words. It was Murong Ni who sneaked an attack on her, so she counterattacked in self-defense. No one doubted Huang Yueli's words, because her performance recently had earned the same level of reputation as Li Moying, whereas Murong Ni was just a craft and unruly rich girl. The words they spoke obviously held different weights. Luo Jiyun knew his junior sister had caused trouble again and he felt very guilty over it. He was afraid Murong Ni would say something to anger Huang Yueli again, so he forestalled her. Sister-in-law. I'm sorry to say that our junior sister is still young and she doesn't understand a lot of things yet, so please don't hold it against her. May I know what happened between the two of you? How did you started arguing? About this, when we just came out, we had some differences about certain issues, so we just started arguing about it, Huang Yueli purposely pointed out. Murong Ni's heart thumped hard when she heard those words. What did Huang Yueli meant by those words? Was she preparing to tell the truth about what happened on the cliff that day? That must be it. She was definitely planning to mention this because she was taking revenge on the sneak attack. Murong Ni was so anxious till she couldn't wait to strangulate her to stop her from speaking. But Luo Jiyun had to continue investigating. Sister-in-law, what is that matter about? Please tell me what my junior sister had done wrong. I will definitely help you to lecture her. You can also listen on. Murong Ni's heart was now in her throat. Huang Yueli stole a glance at her and didn't know whether to laugh or not. We were talking about. She paused her sentence and looked at the anxious expression on Murong Ni's face before slowly continuing. We were talking about the bet earlier. Murong Ni had personally said that if I could verify that the water I had fed Li Moying was indeed the Spirit Saint spring water, she would kowtow to me 100 times, and she actually renege on her debt. Please judge this, as a daughter of such a reputable sect, her words are just like passing gas, is that right? When Murong Ni heard these words, she almost went into a daze. What was the situation now? She thought Huang Yueli would expose her, but she didn't. She raised her look surprisingly but saw Huang Yueli looking down towards her with a meaningful glace, with a ridiculing expression. Murong Ni finally reacted to the current situation. Although Huang Yueli didn't expose her now, she didn't say she would let her off. Huang Yueli actually talked about the wager and her intentions were now very obvious. If Murong Ni wanted her to shut her mouth, then she would need to abide by the wager and kowtow her to 100 times in front of everyone. Otherwise she would tell the truth about Murong Ni pushing her down the cliff. Murong Ni had not expected this and her face turned liver-colored, from both rage and anxiety. She didn't want to kowtow to Huang Yueli as that would mean she was putting out her pride for Huang Yueli to tread upon. She had never done such an embarrassing and insulting thing in her entire life. But if she didn't kowtow to her, she would definitely tell everyone about what happened on the cliff. Murong Ni's heart was divided and an erratic expression soon appeared on her face. Huang Yueli didn't say a single word and unhurriedly looked at her, confident that she would give in. Murong Ni thought for a long time and finally knelt down after she gritted her teeth. You Li, I'm sorry, it's my bad. I shouldn't have suspected you. Please be magnanimous and don't hold it against me. Compared to the danger of being struck by Li Moying, she knew that kowtowing was a much better option. What's more, she felt that Huang Yueli would not have the guts to make her kowtow 100 times. She was after all Li Moying's junior sister. Would she dare not to forgive her? Just this one kneel and some buttery sentences, this matter, should be a breeze. Murong Ni used all the malicious chants she knew to curse Huang Yueli in her heart, but she still endured the humiliation and knelt down. Huang Yueli didn't move and looked at her. She suddenly said, "Weren't you going to kowtow 100 times? Why aren't you moving? Dawn is going to break soon and we still have to send Li Moying down the mountain. Be quick and stop procrastinating." Murong Ni's vision turned back and almost fainted. This slut actually wanted her to kowtow. Mo Yi, Mo and Mo San stood silently by one side, not daring to make any noise. Since they have already acknowledged Huang Yueli as their future mistress, then whatever she do, they would not stop her from doing it. However, Luo Jiun couldn't stand by and watch idly, and he hurriedly came out to mediate. Sister-in-law, I know this is junior sister's wrong. I'll help her apologize too. But this, kowtow 100 times. It's indeed a little too much. She's still young and inexperienced. Please don't hold it against her, sister-in-law. You can also listen on. Huang Yueli shot a glance at Luo Jiun and said, "Junior brother Luo, the reason why your junior sister's temper is unruly is because of people like you who have spoilt her. Everyone should learn how to pay the price for doing something wrong themselves." These words of hers were unreserved and her tone was slight-weighted. Luo Jiun was stunned as he did not expect her to say such words. After all, Huang Yueli was just a 14-year-old lady, but her intonation and manner gave him a misperception, as though the words were not from her but an experienced, powerful, formidable high-level expert. The indescribable feeling of oppression made Luo Jiun's mouth wide open but was unable to plead any further. Huang Yueli suddenly took a turn of intonation, "But if Ms. Murong really don't wish to kowtow, I'm also not the type of person to force others." Then, thud, a low sound echoed, interrupting her words. Murong Ni had already prostrated with her head banding on the ground. Although it was not a heavy kowtow, her face was already flushed till it looked as if blood was going to gush out any time. Having grown to this age, she had never been so embarrassed before. It was simply too humiliating. She wished that there was a hole in the ground so that she could hide in it. Unfortunately, this kowtow was something she had to do. Huang Yueli's intentions were already very clear. If she continued to hesitate, Huang Yueli would definitely mention what had happened on the cliff. Murong Ni scrambled to kowtow and Huang Yueli stopped short. Murong Ni raised her body halfway in midair. Since she had already kowtowed once, she had already shown the sincerity of her apology. If Huang Yueli had any common sense, she should know when to stop and let her get up immediately, unless she really wanted to force her to kowtow 100 times. Alas, Murong Ni's plan failed again. Huang Yueli's voice floated softly over her head, "That's one, there's 99 more. Miss Murong, please continue and kowtow. I'll keep tracking of the counting and will definitely not make a mistake. Stop while you're ahead." Huang Yueli's dictionary did not have this terminology at all. To her, compassion and friendliness were only given to people who were worth it. As for those who willing came to get beaten, she would definitely be merciless, and give that party a lesson that they would never forget. Hearing this, Murong Ni almost fainted with rage. But since Luo Jiun also didn't dare to plead for her, the others would never help her too. Murong Ni clenched her teeth and persuaded herself, since she had already kowtowed once, her face had already been lost. What difference did it make if it's 1 or 100 kowtows? Humiliation is the same, whether it's more or less, there's no difference. Thud, thud, thud. Murong Ni lowered her head and her forehead kept thumping on the ground. Even if the campsite was full of grass and the ground was covered in mud and it wasn't hard, doing too many kowtows at one go was enough to make her giddy, not remembering how many kowtows she had already done. After a long time, She could no longer take it and dizzily turned towards one side. Murong-Ni's eyes saw little stars, and leaning against the ground, her forehead was filled with mud, with traces of bloodstains. Her little face was as white as a sheet. Anyone who saw this scene would think this little girl was very pitiful. In the midst of her dizziness, Murong-Ni saw Huang Yueli move and walked behind her. You can also listen on. Huang Yueli lowered her sight, and when she saw the wound on Murong-Ni's face and the pathetic sight, her face let out a disturbed look. Sigh, look at you, you look so pitiful. Let's hurry, you're left with 7 kowtows, quickly finish up and go back into the tent to rest. Initially, when she heard Huang Yueli saying pitiful, Murong-Ni thought she found her consciousness and decided to let her off. But she had never expected that Huang Yueli's next words were for her to continue kowtowing. What's more, Huang Yueli was really keeping track of the counting. Even if Murong-Ni missed a few kowtows, she kept track of it very clearly. Murong-Ni's eyes turned black and fell flatly on the ground, her head slamming onto the ground hard. Thump. This sound sounded much louder than usual. Huang Yueli sized her up and said, "This kowtow is too non-standard. But since the sound is loud enough, such a magnanimous person like me won't haggle with you over this. So this is counted as 1, there are still 6 kowtows remaining." This evil wretch actually dared to claim herself was magnanimous. It was the first time in her life that Murong-Ni felt that someone could be so thick-skinned, and it had to be this black-bellied female demon which nobody could oppose. She hated Huang Yueli to the core, but she had had no choice but to force herself to concentrate and straightened herself up to finish the remaining 6 kowtows. Huang Yueli replied, "Look, haven't you completed? Hadn't you kowtowed well, you've saved me much time. Next time be more straightforward and stop dragging or going back on your words. Otherwise, I won't be so modest and hold back next time." This was considered modest. Murong-Ni held a mouthful of blood in her throat when she heard these words. She glared at Huang Yueli, almost to the point of puffing out fire, and kept cursing in her heart. "Yueli, just wait and see. Someday I will get my revenge back and teach you a lesson, and I must let senior brother see your shamelessness." Murong-Ni's resentful glare wasn't unreciprocated. But she didn't take it to heart. What could she do to this unruly rich girl? If she didn't learnt her lesson and continued to provoke her, she would definitely make Murong-Ni regret it. What Murong-Ni didn't know was, Huang Yueli had already told Li Moying about Murong-Ni pushing her down the cliff. She had innocently thought that after kowtowing to Huang Yueli, the matter would not be made known to others. Huang Yueli was merely using this as an excuse to get her into trouble again. When Li Moying awakened and recalled all the things that had happened before he became unconscious, Murong-Ni was still going to get into trouble. Huang Yueli walked straight into the tent. It was extremely quiet inside, and Li Moying was alone reclining in the bathtub, with his bottom totally immersed in the Spirit Saint spring water. Huang Yueli sat down on the magical beast skin opposite him, and her gaze swept past that slightly creased brows, his dense eyebrows and that erect nose bridge and the pale cold lips. Her gaze continued downwards to his slender neck, the sexy collarbone and that muscular shoulders. Every inch of his body was perfectly crafted beautifully without a single bit of flaw. However, such an unexcelled man had become extremely weak, gripping Huang Yueli's heart. You can also listen on. Huang Yueli hugged both feet tightly, her chin resting on her knees, and stared fixedly on Li Moying's silhouette. Quickly wake up, quickly recover. Don't make her worry any further. As though they hoped to leave some space for this pair of fiancé and fiancée, Mo Yi and the rest did not enter the tent to disturb their peace. Just like that, a night of silence slipped away quietly. The next morning, when the first ray of sunlight shot into the dark moon forest, everyone awoke. Luo Jiun ran into the tent and saw Huang Yueli remain seated in the exact same position as last night. He astonishingly asked, "Sister-in-law, didn't you rest a bit for the entire night?" Huang Yueli heard some noises and got a jolt. She rubbed her eyes and realized that she was in a daze the entire night. She hurriedly stood up and said, "It was nothing. I was worried that Li Moying would feel uncomfortable, so I couldn't sleep. Luckily nothing cropped up last night." At this moment, Mo Yi and the rest also entered the tent. Seeing her red eyes, Mo Yi too felt astonished. "Third miss, you didn't sleep the entire night? Are you all right? If we had known, we would have taken turns to exchange shifts with you. Do you want to go to another tent now and rest up a bit?" Huang Yueli shook her head. "There's no need, I can't sleep anyway. Since everyone is awake now, let's hurry and leave this mountain. Once we have reached the bottom of the mountain, you should be able to contact your sect to come forward to aid you. From the inner zone of the Dark Moon Forest to the outside, they would need at least 5 to 6 days. Now that they needed to bring along the injured Li Moying, their speed would definitely be much slower, hence they could not delay any further." Luo Jiyun nodded his head and replied, "Sister-in-law, don't worry. We have our own secret method of contact one another. I've already left a message to second brother, so they should already be on their way here." "That's great." Huang Yueli nodded her head. Mo Yi and Mo were already by the side of the bathtub, lifting Li Moying out and helping him to get dressed. Initially these men had thought Huang Yueli would avoid them, but in the end, not only did she not leave, she also stood in the tent to speak to Luo Jiyun and occasionally turned her head back to look at them. As they thought the both of them were fiancé and fiancé status, the few of them didn't bother to voice out. Huang Yueli took a look at Li Moying's complexion. After soaking an entire night in the Spirit Saint spring water, his condition had clearly turned better and his external injury had partially healed, and the greenish-black spot which represented the spiritual damage in between his eyebrows had dispersed by 90%. Li Moying's internal injury would not heal that easily, and his spiritual damage also would not completely recover that soon. There were plenty more problems to settle after these, so at least half a month of recuperation was necessary. Huang Yueli observed for some time before she frowned and asked, "Brother Mo Yi, is Li Moying's current condition considered normal?" In the normal course of events, his spiritual damage had already healed around 90%, so by rights he should have awoken. But he is still unconscious. Could he have sustained other injuries? Mo Yi hesitated as he replied, "I'm not sure as well. But if Master had not taken Dr. Liu's medication, he would indeed be unconscious for a very long period of time whenever his illness acts up." Huang Yueli creased her brows. "Your master's illness is simply unpredictable. Are there no ways to cure it? Every full moon he will need the pills to oppress the symptoms. This is basically just treating the symptoms and not the root cause, which is not a good method for long term." Mo Yi replied, "Third miss, what you just said is exactly what Dr. Liu mentioned. You can also listen on. He said Master's cause of illness is likely due to the instability of the spirit, similar to soul detachment illness. So if we could find the profound lunar jade and a suitable armament master to refine the profound lunar spirit mirror for him to carry around, there might be a certain effect. That's the reason why Master personally came to the Dark Moon Forest." When Huang Yueli heard these words, she was slightly surprised. "Wait, you said the reason for Li Moying to get the profound lunar spirit mirror is for himself?" The profound lunar spirit mirror was generally used by those without cultivation or female practitioners, because these type of people were easiest to lose control of their spirits, and have similar diagnosis such as the soul detachment illness. That was why when Li Moying first proposed the idea for her to refine the profound lunar spirit mirror, Huang Yueli had guessed that it was for some woman who was important to him, requiring him to spend so much effort to find someone to refine such a unique piece of armament. But now, she realized from Mo Yi that the profound lunar spirit mirror was for himself. Huang Yueli was shocked for a moment but soon accepted the answer. It was because she had witnessed his condition personally, and the cause was due to the instability of his spirit. Hence Liu Buyan's diagnosis was definitely reasonable. Huang Yueli gave some thoughts and said, "Since that's the case, if you were to leave the Dark Moon Forest, how are you going to find the profound lunar jade?" Mo Yi replied, "We can only think of other ways then. But Dr. Liu mentioned that if we manage to acquire a good quality profound lunar jade, not only will Master's illness not act up so violently, if there were any accidental situations, even if it acts up, his consciousness would still remain stable for some time, and he would not be so bloodthirsty. The repercussions will also decrease drastically." Upon hearing these words, Huang Yueli hurriedly cut into his words. "Repercussions decrease drastically? Does that mean Li Moying might wake up sooner?" Moyi nodded. Yes, I heard that Dr. Liu and Master's teacher discussed about this matter, saying whenever Master's illness acts up, the reason for his unconsciousness is due to his spirit unable to regain its normal condition. However, with the help of the profound lunar spirit mirror, it will help to quickly stabilize his spirit, hence the amount of time that he remains unconscious will lessen, which in turn also lessens the damage to his body. When Huang Yueli heard these, she quickly stood up. So there is such a matter, why didn't you mention it earlier? Moyi didn't expect her to be so agitated, so he fell into a daze. Huang Yueli said, stop wasting time. Since the profound lunar spirit mirror is so useful to Li Moying, instead of leaving the mountain, let's proceed to the location where we found the vein mine of the spirit jade and get the profound spirit jade. Otherwise, when Li Moying returns to the sect, where will you find the profound spirit jade? If this drags on, another month would have passed. Moyi was dumbfounded. This. Third miss, there's something that you don't know. Even if we were to get the profound lunar jade now, it's useless. It's because once the profound lunar jade leaves the vein mine, it will lose its effect within a few hours. So we need the armament master to refine it on the spot. Master originally mentioned, he had hired an exceptionally skilled armament master over and will meet us directly at the vein mine. But now such an accident had happened and Master remains unconscious, we have no idea where to look for this armament master. Huang Yueli blinked and replied, where are you intending to find this person? The armament master that Li Moying hired. Is me. You can also listen on. What? Did I hear wrongly? When they heard the two conversing, everyone let out a surprised look. No one had thought that Huang Yueli would say such a thing and everyone looked at each other in disbelief. To be frank, the things that Huang Yueli had said over these few days had already gave everyone a big shock. But every time they felt that that matter was already absorbed, something preposterous would pop out of her mouth next. And every single time, the things she said were nothing but the truth. Even so, these words today were something that they could not place their belief in. Luo Jiyun opened his eyes wide, staring at Huang Yueli. Sister-in-law, did I hear wrongly? You said, you're an armament master? Huang Yueli nodded, that's right, and I have an agreement with Li Moying. He would help me attain the 5th and 6th tier fire-attributed magical beast's core and I will be responsible for refining the profound lunar spirit mirror. So it should be a misunderstanding on your part. It's not that the armament master will meet you at the mine vein, but he will bring me alongside. But. You're an armament master? Luo Jiyun stuttered over his words, not know what else to say. Huang Yueli's array skills were so high that she instantly crushed Murong Ni, the well-known array genius in the South Sky region, so naturally everyone had thought she should be an array master. To be honest, to have such deep skill set at a tender age, and her level was so high, it was already an absurd matter. Who would expect that today, Huang Yueli claimed that she was an armament master? This was totally illogical, and something that was impossible. A person's time and energy was only that much. No matter if you were a genius or how much hard work you have put in, it couldn't have been just 1 or 2 days' effort. Huang Yueli was still so young but her array skills level was already that high, and she could still learn the skills of refining armaments. Yet, Huang Yueli calmly nodded her head and threw him an annoyed glance. Why this surprised expression? I have yet to tell any lies yet, right? That's correct, but, you're an armament master? Luo Jiyun looked retarded as he repeated his question again. Huang Yueli helplessly turned towards Mo Yi. Brother Mo Yi, things are like what I said earlier. Since Li Moying has already helped me attain the magical beast cores that I need, so his part of agreement had already been attained. I will definitely need to refine the profound lunar spirit mirror for him. Since he needs it so urgently, we should go to the mine vein directly, get the profound lunar jade and I'll refine it on the spot. It might be useful for his injuries. Mo Yi's expression was unflustered but he paused for a long time. Huang Yueli admired his calm and collected behavior. No wonder he was Li Moying's right-hand man. This psychological state was extremely good, he was calm and collected and not easily shaken, unlike that Luo Jiyun who had yet to grow any hair on his face, making a fuss over every small matter as though he had yet to seen the whirl. Mo Yi remained silent for a short while before he finally spoke. Third miss, are you all right? Was it because you didn't sleep last night so you're not feeling well? Do you feel dizzy or sleepy? Why don't you take a rest first before we move out? Huang Yueli was shocked and took a while to respond. Mo Yi had thought her mind was unclear and was talking rubbish. You can also listen on. Huang Yueli suddenly didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Sigh, she had thought Mo Yi was stronger than Luo Jiyun, but they were basically Tweedledum and Tweedly. Without any choice, she had to spell it out clearly for them to understand. I really am an armament master. The first time I met Li Moying, it was to sell off my profound weapons in his auction house. Don't worry about the quality. If my potential was not there, would such a smart person like Li Moying let me be responsible to refine the profound lunar spirit mirror? Mo Yi looked at her, but these thoughts kept sparking around in his mind. Could it be? Or could it not be? If it was in normal times, based on the black-bellied shrewd character of his master, those armament masters whom he looked up to would definitely be very awesome. But the person he was facing now was Huang Yueli. Truth had shown that in his master's rationality, whenever he faced this astute beauty, he was basically not on his normal standard. Perhaps Li Moying was just finding an excuse to train alongside with his fiancé, and the real armament master was actually someone else? Mo Yi thought about it and said, Third miss, did you know, the profound lunar spirit jade? Although it is not commonly found and there are very few who are able to refine it, it is after all a fourth-tier upper-quality profound artifact. Of course I know about this. Huang Yueli replied. Mo Yi was speechless. He had wanted to be more conservative about his words and let Huang Yueli understand the difference in her level in a subtle way, but he had not expected her to not understand what he was trying to convey, not knowing if she really did not understand or was just trying to act blur. Hence he had no choice but to be blunt. Third miss, fourth-level profound artifacts are not easily refined by anyone. Even normal fourth-rank armament masters might not be able to complete the process. Generally speaking, only fifth-rank armament masters would be able to refine it successfully. What's more, Master had prepared the finest materials this round, in the hope to refine the most outstanding top-quality profound lunar spirit mirror. This should be clear enough. What Li Moying needed was an armament master who was at least 5th rank and above, and it wasn't a normal 5th rank grade. After all, their entire sect had placed high hopes in this round of refinement and spent a huge amount on funds in preparing the best materials. This was not a laughing matter. If this refinement was a failure, they would need to start from scratch and look for a suitable spirit jade mine vein and recollect all the materials, which would in turn seriously affect Li Moying's condition. Even if Mo Yi had already affirmed that Huang Yueli was their future mistress, but on this matter, he was still very prudent and unwilling to relent on it. Huang Yueli understood his meaning, but she insisted, Mo Yi, I understand what you're trying to say, but I am indeed a 5th-rank armament master. You know I would never joke on such matters. If you're not willing to coordinate with me, which in turn might delay Li Moying's treatment, are you able to take up this responsibility? Such a big hat was pinned onto him. Mo Yi was shocked and rendered speechless momentarily. Huang Yueli continued, Don't tell me you want me to force Li Moying to wake up and let him tell you these personally. Speaking of this, she suddenly recalled something and took out a piece of paper from her sleeve. Oh, that's right. This is the agreement between Li Moying and myself. It states there that if I should refine the profound lunar spirit mirror, he will help me collect the ingredients as repayment. You can take a look. The item she took out was the ingredient list that she had listed down for Li Moying, right before arriving at Darkmoon Forest. You can also listen on. Mo Yi received it and took a look, and found that Li Moying's signature was indeed on in. His mouth twitched slightly. What could he say? His master was indeed smitten with confusion. He had even dared to sign this sort of agreement. Let's not talk about the level of Huang Yueli as an armament refiner. Even if she was a 5th-rank armament master, she had asked for so many materials which included a 7th-grade magical beast core, in exchange for a 4th-grade upper-level armament. No matter how you saw it, it was a profitless transaction. However, Huang Yueli couldn't care less about what he felt. She flashed the agreement and kept it again. All right, this matter is settled. Let me go outside and prepare a bit. You guys quickly lift Li Moying. We have to reach the mine vein before today evening. Once Huang Yueli finished her words, she left the tent. Since she had decided to refine the armament on the spot, she had better refrain herself from everyone and check if she had prepared all the items she required to refine the armaments. When her silhouette disappeared, Murong Ni almost jumped. Brother Mo Yi, what did she show you? Mo Yi threw her a glance and replied, nothing much. Just an agreement that Master had signed to show that he used a magical beast core as an exchange to ask her to help refine the armament. What? There's such an item? Why would senior brother look for her to refine armaments? That agreement must be a fake. The agreement is not a fake, I can still recognize Master's signature. Mo Yi replied. Murong Ni's eyes turned wide and said urgently, But, how could she be an armament master? And 5th rank? That's impossible. Something must be wrong somewhere, you cannot allow yourself to be deceived by her. If she causes the death of senior brother, what should we do? She dared not say these words when Huang Yueli was around. Only after she had left did Murong Ni screamed these out unrestrainedly. Mo Yi had also had some hesitation, but once he saw Murong Ni jumping, his thoughts suddenly cleared up. That's right. Murong had doubted Huang Yueli several times and felt that the words and things that Huang Yueli had said and done were not possible, but in the end, the truth whacked her hard in the face. Perhaps his master had took a fancy to this third miss. Was because of some heavenly strategy? Very soon, Mo Yi and the rest had made a simple stretcher and placed Li Moying on top of it. The entire group of people set off once the dawn broke. Mo Yi listened to Huang Yueli's suggestion and led the team to the mine vein. The position of the mine vein was not far from where they had camped, so they only needed half a day to reach there. If Huang Yueli was just as what she had claimed, that she had the ability to refine the profound lunar spirit mirror, this amount of reroute was extremely worth it. Mo and Mo San unconditionally followed the decision of Mo Yi. Although Luo Jiyun was still worried, when he thought of Huang Yueli's recent performance, he chose to follow the rest. Murong Ni, on the other hand, was disgruntled. She wanted to ridicule Huang Yueli badly, but she had been tricked till she was scared thoroughly. Whenever she saw Huang Yueli's cold gaze sweeping over, she would subconsciously shiver and not dared to say a single word. She would only dared to curse her violently inside her heart. Huang Yueli was deeply troubled and had no time to worry about what the others thought. The few of them concentrated fully and hastened on their journey, so they didn't really meet with any magical beasts which stopped them on their way. Before noon, they had already reached the spirit jade vein. You can also listen on. Mo Yi stopped his footsteps and looked towards the direction of the mine vein's position. The spirit jade vein is just up ahead. We only need another 1 hour before we arrive. Originally, the vein's surroundings are guarded by high-level magical beasts and Master had no battle power now, so it will be difficult for us to break through. But luckily, the Scarlet Eyes blood bats which were guarding the vein had already been cleared by Master, so no other magical beasts will appear here. Huang Yueli took a glance at the pale man after she heard these words. He laid there quietly, his elegant brows and eyes with his jade-white complexion made him look slightly delicate, perfectly tranquil, as though he had walked right out of a painting. No one could tell that when he was awake, he was a powerful yet arrogant man. By the time Li Moying had rushed to the spirit jade vein, Huang Yueli had fallen off the cliff, so she missed the opportunity to see his massacre of the surroundings. Just hearing Mo Yi de-emphasizing a few words, she could almost imagine how powerful Li Moying was at that time, so have killed all the scarlet-eyed bloodbats at that time. Such a huge cloud of bloodbats caused them to have nowhere to flee. But in front of this man, they were not able to withstand a single blow. Huang Yueli sighed again and turned to look at the spirit jade mine vein. Since there are no magical beasts in the way, this makes things much easier. I was initially worried about this. Mo Yi shook his head. Third miss, things are not as simple. Although there are no magical beasts, but we cannot be sure which location is the profound lunar jade in. Dr. Liu mentioned that Master would be able to sense the location of the profound lunar jade, but now, Huang Yueli waved her hand and said, "Don't worry about this. It's just to find the location of a piece of profound lunar jade. Without the interference of the magical beasts, this is a simple thing to handle." As an armament sovereign, finding armament materials was naturally a lesson that they had to take up. There were plentiful of exquisite materials for refining armaments, and the materials were often hidden in steep mountains, and sometimes it would be hidden among many normal stones and weeds, so it was extremely hard to identify. But an experienced armament master would be able to use psychodynamic investigation and some supplementary methods to identify the required materials. In actual fact, identifying the quality of the materials was an important aspect of the armament master's assessment. Although he was extremely unconvinced, Mo Yi forced himself to swallow back his misgivings when he saw her self-confidence. Within half an hour, they had reached the foot of the vein. The surroundings were indeed very clean and there were no magical beasts in sight. Lying on the ground were some corpses of a few scarlet-eyed bloodbats. Huang Yueli screamed through and turned her head. "Remove these scarlet-eyed bloodbats' magical core out and their claws. These are very good materials for refining. Their wings can be added into the medication. When I've started to refine the armament, please deal with these materials while you're waiting." Mo Yi, Mo and Mo San, Luo Jiyun gave an exasperated expression. "That sister-in-law, shouldn't we find the profound lunar jade first before we discuss about these materials?" He really admired his future sister-in-law. At this kind of timing, she can still remember her materials. Huang Yueli rolled her eyes. "What? I won't delay the urgent matter. Profound lunar jade is just behind this mountain road, I have already sensed it." Saying that, she hastened her footsteps and ran towards the end of the mountain path and stopped at a piece of stone cliff. She paused and lifted her head, looking up and down to take measure of it. You can also listen on. Sister-in-law, how is it? Is the profound lunar jade located here? Luo Jiyun caught up hurriedly and looked everywhere, but he could not see anything peculiar. Huang Yueli extracted a dagger from the sky phoenix ring and used her might to strike it in between the wall of the mountain. Then she pried open a broken piece of rock and repeated her earlier movements and slowly chiseled more rocks. Luo Jiyun saw that she was using up a lot of energy and hurriedly rushed over. "Sister-in-law, do you need my help?" Huang Yueli shook her head and replied, "No need, please stand further behind." Luo Jiyun heeded her advice and stood further back. Huang Yueli used the handle of the dagger and knocked hard on the mountain wall. Earlier, when she was slowly chiseling the mountain wall, she was actually drawing out a boundary around this region, and between each distance, she left a chiseled mark. Now upon her final knock, this region's rock started to collapse onto the ground. Huang Yueli walked to the front and slowly chose among the fallen rocks. Very soon, she picked up one piece in her hand. "All right, I've found it." When Luo Jiyun and the rest heard this, they excitedly surrounded her. But their faces fell upon the first glance. This rock was roughly around the size of a palm and the color was grayish, its surrounding had uneven protrusions and didn't look at all special. This is the profound lunar jade. This. Third miss, did you make a mistake? The profound lunar jade is a rare piece of gem. However, do all 5th grade materials look like this? Huang Yueli rolled her eyes at them and said, "Things seldom seen are strange. Now who's the armament master, you or me?" Luo Jiyun wiped his sweat and replied, "Of course it's sister-in-law, you are." But, he wanted to ask more in-depth questions, but Huang Yueli impatiently straightened her waist and said, "All right, now that we have found the profound lunar jade and Li Moying had already passed me the rest of the materials just before we entered the Dark Moon Forest. Without further ado, I shall start refining now." Even though Huang Yueli had mentioned that earlier, when they heard her decisiveness to start work immediately, everyone was slightly dazed. "Oh, this. Third miss, you're preparing to refine the armament here? Don't you need a bit more preparation?" Mo Yi was dumbfounded. Huang Yueli replied, "Spirit Jade Mine Vein has a special force field which improves the quality of the profound armament. This is the best place to refine the armament. I will set up a Chi Vitality array over at the empty ground there and refine the armament. You will stay nearby and are in charge of defense. Although the surroundings look safe, but we had better take precaution than be sorry. Yes, don't worry about this. We will take turns to be on duty to ensure master and your safety. Huang Yueli nodded. That's great. I am definitely assured with you in charge, Brother Mo Yi. I'll leave the outside to you. After she had arranged all the remaining matters, she took out various materials from the Sky Phoenix ring and proceeded to set up the array. The level of the Chi Vitality array was much higher than the Beast Diversion array and was a genuine 4th level array. It was especially effective in the success rate of refining armaments, so a lot of armament masters would set up this array in their refining room. Since they were running out of time, the array that she set up was just a simple version. Within such a short amount of time, she was able to set up a level 4 array. Just this alone nearly made Murong Ni's eyes fell out. You can also listen on. After Huang Yueli had set up the array, she patted the dust off her hands and chased everyone out. All right, don't any one of you dare to come disturb me, and don't allow anyone or any magical beasts to barge in and break my momentum. I'm going to start now, so wait for my good news. Once everyone had left the boundary of her vision, Huang Yueli touched the crux of the array and activated the array. Surrounding array patterns lit up and a strong Chi Vitality array came alive instantly. She extracted an armament furnace from the Sky Phoenix ring. This armament furnace was the one which Li Moying and herself obtained from Master Yun Tian's cave. This furnace was even able to refine a half-gold relic, so refining a 4th-level upper-grade profound lunar spirit mirror was a piece of cake. With this armament furnace and paired together with true phoenix fire and amethyst thunderflame, the profound armament that was refined would definitely break through the usual quality. To Huang Yueli, there was only an unexpected regret. That regret was, she had originally planned to advance to the 2nd degree realm before she started refining this armament. Li Moying had already gathered all the items and magical beast cores she required, so if she could have a minimum of 7 days of seclusion, she would be able to break through the 2nd degree realm successfully. After her advancement, her level of refining armaments would naturally be higher and she would definitely level up the quality of the profound lunar spirit mirror by quite an amount. But the unexpected thing was Li Moying's injury. Refining the profound lunar spirit mirror was the imminent priority, so there was no time left for her to break through. It was exactly because of this that Huang Yueli had to be even more prudent and took extra care in the preparations before she started refining. Her mission was to ensure that the refinement process was smooth sailing. She carefully placed the armament furnace in the middle of the array and activated all the amplifying arrays. Following that, her left and right hands flicked and 2 dazzling fire flames shot out from both her hands and shot into the entry point at the bottom of the armament furnace. These 2 flames, one amethyst and one gold, were the amethyst thunderflame and true phoenix fire. Once these 2 hetero flames, that she had refined, had entered the armament furnace, it burst with the wing and melded together to become a bundle of raging flames which shone amethyst golden rays. A short while later, the armament furnace started puffing green smoke. Huang Yueli took the opportunity to do an incantation gesture and silently chanted open. The furnace lid opened and she skillfully placed all the materials by her feet one at a time into the furnace. With these hetero flames cooperating, the materials in the furnace started to melt and converge together. Convergence was the first step to armament refining. Different materials had different attributes which might contradict one another, and there might be impurities within which would affect the final product. Hence, using the heat from the flames and the armament master's skillful control to combine the different materials together and to refine the impurities which were not required, was the basics, but yet it was the most important step. If this step was poorly executed, when the product reached the final stage, it would fail through lack of effort. Sometimes, explosions might also occur. Convergence of materials was the most arduous step, and yet it required the most amount of patience, and concentration level must be extremely high. The expectation of the armament master's profound energy was very great. There were many armament masters whose cultivation levels were slightly lower, but their skills were pretty good. However, due to the lack of their profound energy, They were not able to support the long-duration process, so they were never able to refine the high-level profound armaments. You can also listen on. In her past life, due to the Huang Yueli's high level of skills and innate gift, she was one of the talents in Soaring Heaven's continent, so she had never to worry about this. But now, she was facing a severe challenge. Based on her first-degree realm's cultivation, if it was any other normal armament master, no matter what innate gift they had, there was no way to refine a second-grade profound armament. Moreover, the item she wanted to refine was a fourth-level upper-grade profound lunar spirit mirror, and she had intended to add in modifications to make the profound armament to advance to the fifth level. This was an unimaginable dream for most people. Huang Yueli used the strong concentration that had been left over from her past life, mounts of experience that she had gained, and a strong determination and willpower. She vowed that she would challenge this impossible task. She gathered all her profound energy and put her best foot forward. For Li Moying, she must do it. In the armament furnace, different materials were starting to melt. But it was still in regiments and were contradicting one another, refusing to mold together. Huang Yueli's expression was solemn, and she kept the incantation gestures going. No matter how serious anything was, 100% of the time, her heart always remained calm and patient. She knew more than anyone else that the more rigorous a challenge was, the more she must remain calm and collected. In this way, she would be able to bring her potential to the highest level. Time slowly passed by. Outside the array, the sky had turned slightly dark and slightly brightened up again. However, Huang Yueli was unaffected by the changes happening outside. She put in all her concentration into the materials in the armament furnace, not daring to let her mind wander. Finally, a PFFFT sound gently echoed and the materials in the furnace suddenly bubbled, letting out a pungent smoke. Huang Yueli gazed at the golden, purified liquid, and her eyes reflected a smile. Finally, the convergence step was completed. The next step was to add in the profound lunar jade. With a flick of her fingers, the grayish rock that Huang Yueli had dug out from the mountain wall was flung into the furnace. The instant that rock fell into the molten liquid, something unexpected happened. The originally unremarkable grayish rock suddenly slipped out of its original color and slowly became lighter until it finally became crystal clear. Under the flames, it sparkled brightly as if it was the most beautifully cut gem on earth. The profound lunar jade blended into the molten liquid and melted in the fastest possible speed. The liquid in the armament furnace also became a bluish-green color, and it vaguely let out a gust of cold air. The flowing speed gradually became slower and slower, showing signs of being frozen. Huang Yueli's expression became increasingly deep as she knew this was the crucial moment that the profound armament would form into its shape. She took a deep breath and her hand movements became even more prudent. Outside the array, Mo Yi, Mo Mo San, Luo Jiyun, and Murong Ni took turns to guard the unconscious Li Moying. This was already the third morning. Luo Jiyun looked at Li Moying, who was lying in the tent, and took a deep sigh. Sigh, why is sister-in-law taking so long to refine the profound armament? Could there have been an accident? I really wish to go in and at a look at the situation. Mo Yi immediately replied, Master Luo, you might not know about this, but refining armaments are normally time and energy consuming. It is especially so for fourth-level upper-grade profound armaments such as the profound lunar spirit mirror. It will take at least 7 days, and now it has only been 3 days, so there's still a long way to go. You can also listen on. Luo Jiyun replied, Really? I thought it would be ready in 1 or 2 days. If that's the case, does that mean sister-in-law is working laboriously without eating or resting? Mo Yi nodded, that's right. When armament masters start refining, they absolutely cannot stop. At most they would take some abstinence pills to satisfy their hunger. Such a high-intensity job requires a huge amount of profound energy, so I'm worried if Third Miss can persevere. Luo Jiyun started to feel worried when he heard this. No wonder every piece of armament is sold at an outrageous price. It's tough being an armament master. Sigh, I really cannot take a look. I'm really worried. What if senior brother doesn't wake up and sister-in-law can't hang on? What shall we do? When Mo Yi heard what Luo Jiyun said, he immediately stopped him. You absolutely cannot disturb her. If there is any disturbance during the refining process, it is easy to get into trouble. Murong Ni had been eavesdropping on their conversation, and when she heard this, she couldn't stop herself from speaking out. Fifth brother, did you really believe that Huang Yueli is able to refine the profound lunar spirit mirror? This, to be honest, Luo Jiyun was skeptical. Even Mo Yi also did not show his confidence that Huang Yueli could make it, unlike previous times. Murong Ni continued, in my opinion, all of you have been deceived by Yueli. How could she be a 5th grade armament master? Just with that little bit of cultivation, you know it's just not possible. Luo Jiyun subconsciously rebuked her, but sister-in-law had already said that she could do it, so we should at least let her have a go at it. Murong Ni snorted disgruntledly, why must we let her try? Do you know how much time we have wasted? If it wasn't for the fact that she insisted on looking for the profound lunar jade, we might have got out of the dark moon forest and made contact with brother's men. Now we've wasted so much time and she's not able to refine the profound lunar spirit mirror. It will definitely delay senior brother's condition. Luo Jiyun was convinced by her words and showed signs of worries. Sigh, it's not entirely wrong to say this, but since sister-in-law had already started refining, to say it is a failure. Isn't it too early? What's more, even if it was a failure, we should have a look at the end result first. Don't tell me we should just give up halfway. Murong Ni disapprovingly replied, you still want to wait for more than 7 days. By the time she comes out, it may be too late for senior brother. We should stop wasting time. Make use of the opportunity now and send senior brother back to the sect. Stop making consecutive mistakes. Luo Jiyun felt that her words made some sense, but he was still indecisive. But sister-in-law is still inside the array refining the profound armament. How about her? What else can we do? Of course we should go inform her about this and stop the refining process. How can we do that? Didn't you hear what brother Mo Yi said? If armament masters are disrupted while they are refining, there is a high possibility that they will enter into a state of qi deviation. Well, there's no other way. Since we are all in the 5th degree realm, with our combined strength, I'm sure we are able to transport senior brother out safely. If we don't leave together, there is no guarantee that we can ensure his safety. If Yueli insists on staying to refine the armament and can't leave, then we can only leave her here alone. What? How can we do that? Luo Jiyun frowned. The sides of Murong Ni's lips curled upwards and revealed a sly smile. Why not? Do we have any other ideas now? Tell me who is more important now, senior brother or Yu Li? You can also listen on. In actual fact, when Murong Ni heard what Mo Yi said earlier, she already knew that Yu Li could not be disturbed in her current state. So the idea that she came out with had 2 roots, both of it were major disadvantages to Huang Yueli. If they were to remind Huang Yueli to stop refining, even if the profound lunar spirit mirror was originally a success, it would end up failing because of the disruption, and there was a huge possibility of incurring a serious internal injury or even enter the state of qi deviation. If they don't inform her and left without a word, as a 1st degree realm practitioner, she would be equivalent to a fat sheep waiting to run into a pack of wolves in the dark moon forest. There was no way she could leave this place alive. No matter which method they chose would be life-threatening situation. If it was normal times, no one would leave Huang Yueli on her own. But now that Li Moying was seriously injured, everyone was uptight and absent-minded. Including the fact that they had waited for 3 days, so they were feeling restless and worried that Li Moying's condition might worsen due to the delay. It was only under the current circumstances that Murong Ni had dared to voice out her opinions. She accurately guessed their mentality and knew that nothing was more important than Li Moying's health at this point of time. Weighing the pros and cons, the possibility of leaving Huang Yueli behind was much higher. As expected, everyone fell into a short span of silence after they heard Murong Ni's suggestions. The smile on Murong Ni became more obvious and she was sneering in her heart. Yu Li, just because senior brother stood up for you, did you feel complacent? Now everyone will abandon you because of senior brother. This is what you deserve. However, Mo Yi shook his head after a while. No. Myself, Mo and Mo San will not abandon third miss and leave without her. If the both of you cannot wait, you may leave first. But since you're not able to guarantee master's safety, we will not allow you to bring away our master. Murong Ni's smile froze as she had never expected to hear such an answer. She immediately turned anxious. Brother Mo Yi, how can you do this? Aren't you worried about senior brother's condition? Are you going to allow Yu Li, that lass, to do as she wish? If senior brother's cultivation really reversed, leaving him injured for the rest of his life, what are you going to do about it? Mo Yi replied, the situation you are describing is possible, then why are you not hurrying to leave with us? Murong Ni hurriedly cut into his words. Mo Yi shook his head and calmly replied, but I'm very sure that master can throw away his life just to ensure that third miss do not get injured. If he finds out the truth later that we ignored third miss's safety and left without permission, he will definitely not let us off. As servants, we cannot defy our master's orders, so we seek Miss Murong's understanding. Mo Yi's words were neither obsequious nor supercilious. Although he said to ask Murong Ni for her understanding, in actual fact he had already given the answer, which was they would definitely not leave. Murong Ni had not expected Mo Yi to be so insistent. Her satisfactory plans were going to be overturned and she started to be anxious. She turned her head and looked at the position of Huang Yueli's spirit-gathering array, and a sinister expression flashed past her eyes. She suddenly stood up and walked towards the spirit-gathering array. Junior sister, what's wrong? Why are you walking over there for? Luo Jiun found it weird and questioned her. You can also listen on. Murong Ni made up an excuse instantly. I have a need to answer the call of nature. Oh, Luo Jiun nodded and, putting aside this question, turned to the opposite direction. Murong Ni was the only female around, so if she needed to answer the call of nature, naturally she would walk further away. These few men had to avoid doing anything that might arouse suspicion, so they resolved not to turn their heads around. Murong Ni waited for everyone to turn around before she sped up and slid over to the front of Huang Yueli's spirit-gathering array. She raised her fingers and held up her whip, summoned her profound skill and threw out her whip heavily in the direction of the array. A huge boom shook the entire ground. The men finally realized something was wrong, and when they took a look, all of them turned pale with fright. Junior sister, what are you doing? Come back quickly. You cannot go and disturb sister-in-law. Miss Murong, what were you intending to do? Quickly leave that place. Not only did Murong Ni not hear them, she used 100% of her profound energy and continued attacking the array. This round, she thought that since her intentions were already discovered by everyone, she might as well not bother hiding, and started to shout while she was continuing her attacks. Yu Li, come out now. Stop wasting time inside, we are going to descend the mountain. Just give up since you're not able to refine the profound lunar spirit mirror. Come out, quickly come out now. Her voice had a penetrative effect which echoed around the surroundings of the mountain path. When the few men heard this, their faces had turned exceptionally unsightly. With Murong Ni's attack and vociferation, unless Huang Yueli was dead, otherwise she would definitely be disturbed. Refining armaments was not for fun but an extremely dangerous task. What she was doing was obviously because she wanted Huang Yueli dead. The others used their fastest speed and hurried over, in an attempt to drag Murong Ni away. When Murong Ni saw this, her attack speed increased several notches and continued to shout, Yu Li, quickly come out. Stop wasting everyone's time since you're not able to refine it. Senior brother is going to die because of you. How would she not know that she would cause Huang Yueli's attention to be diverted and meet with a mishap? But that was exactly the end result of what she had hoped for. She wanted so badly for Huang Yueli to enter into the state of qi deviation and suffer from internal injuries, then cough out blood. If it wasn't for this end result, how could she make Huang Yueli pay for the humiliation of making her kowtow 100 times? She dared to humiliate her like this. Dying 100 times wouldn't be enough to pay for it. Even though this might make the refinement process a failure, Murong Ni had never even considered this, as she had already determined that Huang Yueli was not able to refine the profound lunar spirit mirror. Whether she broke her momentum or not, it should not affect Li Moying at all. The men were extremely anxious, but since they were a distance from the array, rushing over would require a bit more time. Mo Yi's expression looked extremely terrible. If it wasn't for the fact that he did not stop Murong Ni and got Huang Yueli injured again, when Li Moying awakes, how furious would he get? Just as everyone were in extreme anxiety, something unexpected happened. Following a buzz-buzz sound, the spirit-gathering array was actually released. Murong Ni had not stopped her attacks as she clearly understood that a fourth-level array was not easily damaged. So her main aim was never to break the array but merely to disrupt Huang Yueli's refining process. So she had never thought that the array would suddenly disappear. She fell short of defense, and because she used too much power, she was unable to stop herself. In an instance, she fell directly into the boundary of the array, flat on her face onto the ground. You can also listen on. The next moment, Huang Yueli's skirt hem appeared right before her eyes. Murong Ni dazedly raised her head and looked upwards following the direction of Huang Yueli's skirt. In the end, before she could see anything, she felt something cooling on her face. Her hands reached out and touched her face, and found it full of blood. She finally realized that when she fell, she had hurt her nose and it caused a nosebleed which smeared all over her face. Murong Ni embarrassedly climbed up. Using her strength to wipe her nose, she smeared the blood onto other parts of her face, causing it to look even messier than before, and slightly comical. Huang Yueli couldn't stop herself from laughing out. Murong Ni, what are you doing? Did you find that I was too bored with refining armaments, so you're here to put up a skit for me to watch? You! What are you saying? Murong Ni flew into a rage, her eyes staring hard at Huang Yueli, and started cursing. You vixen! How dare you use underhanded methods to scheme against me? You're utterly shameless and evil. Huang Yueli retracted her smiles and coldly said, Please get yourself right. Who was the one using underhanded methods? I want to question Miss Murong. When I was refining the armament, who attacked my spirit-gathering array and who was screaming and shouting outside? What does that imply? I thought that since you were not coming out, I wanted to urge you. Murong Ni's thoughts were squashed and her stance weakened, but she quickly found an adequate reason. Oh, urge me? That's right. Murong Ni raised her head and acted righteously. Can't you see what kind of condition senior brother is in right now? Can he continue waiting for countless days? Can you or can't you refine the profound lunar spirit mirror? Quickly tell us the truth. If this drags on, how will you account for if senior brother's injuries worsen further? Huang Yueli's gaze became even colder. You are urging me. Do you know how much time is needed for an armament master to refine armaments? And that the refining process cannot be disturbed? As Huang Yueli was speaking, her gaze brushed past her and it remained affixed on the four men standing behind. Those who felt her gaze brush past started to look down sheepishly in guilt. Mo Yi replied, Third miss, I had reminded Miss Murong, but we had never expected her to use the excuse of answering a nature's call to get past us and ran over secretly. It's my fault that this happened. Third miss, I shall await your punishment. Huang Yueli's side of her lips curled and she moved her gaze back to Murong Ni. So, you knew that it would cause me to enter the state of qi deviation and you still did it on purpose? Murong Ni looked at her calm composure and felt like punching her. She had wanted so badly to say, That's right, I did it on purpose. But Murong Ni still had some brains. She knew this was not the time to admit her wrongdoings, so she shook her head with all her might. Of course not. Why would I do that on purpose? I was just anxious. Who asked you to waste so much time and yet still not refine even a bit of the profound lunar spirit mirror? Huang Yueli sniggered but did not say a word. Murong Ni then realized that something was not right. Yueli, you're not affected at all? Shouldn't you be? She had yet to finish her sentence, but everyone understood what she meant. Murong Ni had forcefully launched an attack on Huang Yueli's array, causing her to halt her refining process and release the array. In such a way, Huang Yueli would definitely suffer serious backlash effects. Even if she didn't enter the state of qi deviation, she should have at least suffered some kind of internal injury. You can also listen on. Especially the armament that she had just refined was way above what her cultivation level could refine. According to logic, she would not only have obtained an injury, and it should have been a serious injury. Murong Ni was insistent on this belief in this, so she struck out without holding back. However, the situation now was way past her expectations. Huang Yueli stood silently in the array. A tall, large armament furnace sparkled with faint amethyst and gold rays behind her. Just one glance and you can tell it's something extraordinary. As for herself, although her face was slightly stained with dust, her slightly damp hair was stuck on her face and she showed hints of fatigue, but she didn't look one who had sustained injuries. Murong Ni scrutinized her from head to toe, and after some time, she still couldn't see where Huang Yueli had sustained injuries. When Mo Yi and the rest saw her, they quickly walked closer and inquired in a concerned tone, "Third Miss, are you all right? If you have any internal injury or anywhere that you feel unwell, you must tell us. I have prepared some pills which are meant for treating internal injuries." Huang Yueli shook her head and replied, "No worries, I'm not injured at all. It's just that I was stuck inside for 3 days, so I'm famished. Can you find me something to eat?" Hearing that, Moa immediately ran to start the fire to cook up a feast. Murong Ni stared blankly at her and said unbelievingly, "You're all right, you're not injured. How can that be? This could not be happening." Huang Yueli threw her a glance with an expression cold like ice. "Why? Do you feel that it's a pity that I'm not injured? You still dare to say it's unintentional? Do you think I'm an idiot?" Murong Ni was agitated by her and couldn't hold back further. "What? So what if I was intentional? I think you did that on purpose too, right? No wonder you did not sustain any injuries, because you were not even refining any armaments. The furnace was just a decoy. You're obviously wasting time with the intention to drag us down. So, did I guess correctly?" Huang Yueli gave her a glance like she was looking at an imbecile. "Why do I need to put up appearances in the array? And for an entire 3 days? What advantages would I gain?" Murong Ni chuckled. "Aren't you very clear about this? It must be because you promised the heavens and earth, but once you entered the array, you realized that 4th level upper grade armaments are not easily refined as your level is too far off. So you thought of hiding inside to continue pretending. After 8 to 10 days then you'd pretend to fail because you don't have enough power. In this way, you will be less embarrassed. But, have you thought of it, although you have not lost so much face, but as the days drag on, what will become of senior brother? Luckily I woke up to this face and exposed your scheme. Otherwise, senior brother is going to die because of you." Huang Yueli stared at her, not making any sound. She had seen brainless people, but never had she met someone as braindead as this. She could even thought of this verdict. And she was pretty shameless to try and discredit Huang Yueli, and yet at the same time bring credit to herself. It was obviously Murong Ni plotting against Huang Yueli, but when the words came out from her mouth, it sounded as though she had recorded a merit and did a big favor for everyone. Huang Yueli's silence made Murong Ni think that she was correct, thus her guilty silence. "What? I've got it, isn't it? 5th brother and the rest have been deceived by you. Your armament furnace looks like it is a high-quality product. But it has been ruined by a swindler like you, who is fishing for fame and compliment. You can also listen on." Huang Yueli revealed a smile which didn't look like a smile. "I know, you want me to fail so badly, but unfortunately I have to apologize that I have disappointed you. I have yet to fail refining any armaments under my care." Murong Ni sneered and blurted out without thinking, still trying to exaggerate. 4th level upper grade profound weapon, can you possibly refine it? This I gotta, see, ouch. Before she could finish her words, Huang Yueli had pushed her aside. Murong Ni was caught off guard and nearly fell on her face. She staggered several steps back and managed to force herself to stand steadily. "What are you doing? A good dog doesn't block the road." Huang Yueli spared any glances at her and her lips curled upwards, but the words she soiled out were infuriating. "You little..." Murong Ni was about to fly into a rage when she saw Huang Yueli's expression froze as she made an incantation gesture towards the armament furnace. A poof sounded and the amethyst gold furnace's lid started to puff out green smoke. At the same time, it was vibrating gently. Murong and I just realized that all the while when they were talking, the armament furnace was still refining the profound armament. She had seen their sex armament masters refining weapons and knew that when they were refining weapons, they must concentrate fully without a single bit of distraction. If they conversed with anyone or even a slight glance might end up with an explosion. However, all the while that Huang Yueli conversed with her, her vision had not even drifted to the armament furnace, and the result was, it had not exploded. And it looked like the refining process was pretty successful. In actual fact, what Murong and I didn't know was that when refining profound armaments, concentration was most required in the molding and shaping process. Once the profound armament had gained its shape, as long as the deviant flames was strong enough, all they needed was sufficient time for the waiting process. Those armament masters who were extremely careful and didn't even dare to make any sound when they had entered the molding stage was because they didn't have the ability to use refined powerful deviant flames. They could only use normal flame armament, so that would be extremely dangerous. At this point of time, Huang Yueli put all her attention on the profound weapon in the furnace, ignoring Murong and I. The profound weapon had long been molded into its shape, but the flame towards the ending part was extremely important. The exact time to open the furnace was decided by the degree of the calcination, and was the crucial step of refining armaments. The speed of her incantation gestures were very fast, one after another, and soon it all added up together. Following that, she struck out the final incantation gesture and lightly said, "Keep." 2 deviant flames flew out from the bottom of the armament furnace and landed into her palms. Luo Jiyun's eyes were fixated on the flames and he shouted out in shock, Is that the legendary deviant flame? How did sister-in-law get the deviant flame? And there's 2 of them." Mo Yi quickly tugged at him, "Shh, keep quiet. You can't make any noises at this moment." Luo Jiyun quickly covered his mouth. Huang Yueli recovered back the deviant flames and lightly shouted, "Open." The furnace cover raised up and let out all the miscellaneous smoke that had piled up within. Momentarily the sky was filled with smoke clouds. Coincidentally, the smoke happened to be blown towards Murong Enai's direction. She had originally stood by the side when she was dazed by Huang Yueli's skilled and graceful movements like a dance. In the end, a cloud of thick smoke came charging towards her face when the furnace lid opened. Murong's entire face was puffed with smoke. Oh. What is this? It's so hot, so hot. Why can't I see anything? Help, help. You can also listen on. Murong Enai wailed like ghosts and howled like wolves as she was sprayed by that thick smoke. Her face was heated and she had a huge shock. Huang Yueli coldly sneered, "What's there to scream about? It's just a cloud of smoke. Who asked you to come so near, and of all places, you had to stand at where the ventilator was. If I hadn't kept the deviant flames in advance, you'd have been burnt to a crisp." Murong Enai was filled with hatred, but she couldn't say anything against it. Subconsciously she felt that Huang Yueli had intentionally controlled the direction of the smoke towards her, but she didn't have any evidence. Huang Yueli was a genuine armament master, so when she said the position where Murong Enai was standing was wrong, Murong Enai simply had no way to fight back. Luckily, this puff of smoke was exactly as what Huang Yueli said, and it wasn't too hot, only making her face turn red with heat and some skin had begun to peel, but she wasn't disfigured. Some thick smoke smog her eyes and was extremely pungent, causing Murong Enai's eyes to turn red and kept tearing. That sight was extremely pitiful. However, Huang Yueli didn't bother to look at her, and continued walking towards the side of the armament furnace. Carefully, she retrieved a palm-sized mirror. This mirror reflected a faint indigo color and looked eerie. However, Mo Yi became excited once he saw this mirror. This is really the profound lunar spirit mirror. I've seen the blueprint of the profound lunar spirit mirror and it reflects this special indigo color, so it cannot be wrong. Saying that, he carefully inquired Huang Yueli, "Third miss, may I borrow and take a look?" Huang Yueli replied smilingly, "Why? You don't trust me?" Mo Yi shook his head, "No. It's just, this profound lunar spirit mirror, it seems a little different from the one that I've seen previously." Huang Yueli's lips curled and she generously passed the profound lunar spirit mirror to Mo Yi. When Mo Yi took the profound armament, he instantly felt a chilling sensation and almost didn't hold on to it. But a joyous expression flashed past his face because this chilling feeling was one of the special attributes of the profound lunar spirit mirror. He took the profound armament in his hands and checked it carefully. Mo Yi noticed that the profound lunar spirit mirror that Huang Yueli had refined was slightly different from the blueprint that he had seen. The pattern carvings on the mirror was a lot more complicated than the blueprint, and the shape of the mirror was different as well. But from the color and feeling, it was definitely the profound lunar spirit mirror. Huang Yueli saw the questions that were troubling Mo Yi, so she explained, "The profound lunar spirit mirror that I had refined is indeed different from the blueprint that Li Moying gave me. Perhaps you have already noticed, this profound lunar spirit mirror is a 5th grade mid-quality profound armament. 5th grade mid-rank." Mo Yi's hands shivered and almost dropped the mirror that he was holding. This was too thrilling. The armament that Huang Yueli had refined was a 5th grade mid-rank profound armament. But he was also considered as a practitioner who had mounts of experience. Even though they didn't have any tools to ascertain the product, but towards the profound armament's grade that he was holding in his hands, he roughly could gauge. From the exterior looks of this profound lunar spirit mirror, it was indeed worth much more than a normal 4th grade upper-level profound armament. But the fact that Huang Yueli could refine a 4th grade upper-level profound lunar spirit mirror successfully was already a shocking fact. And now, she told him that she had improvised on the blueprint and the end product that she had refined was of a higher grade by 2 small levels than the original. Was he really not dreaming? You can also listen on. Huang Yueli saw Mo Yi's face filled with astonishment, so she said, "Try putting this on for Li Moying. We'll know its effect once he tries it on." When Mo Yi heard what she said, he hurriedly explained, "Third miss, I'm not doubting your ability." But Huang Yueli stopped him. "No need to explain, quickly let Li Moying try this on." Mo Yi nodded and hastily ran back into the tent. Huang Yueli had originally intended to follow him in. It will be best if she could see Li Moying waking up personally, but as she was about to take one step ahead, a low groan was heard from nearby. She turned towards the sound and found Murong Ni sitting on the ground rubbing her eyes. Her face was filled with soot and she stared at Huang Yueli with an indescribable enmity. When Huang Yueli looked towards her direction, Murong Ni gritted her teeth and said menacingly, "You Li, today's matter, I won't let it go so easily. You dared to humiliate me, I will never let you off." Huang Yueli stopped in her tracks and she smiled lightly. "What a coincidence, I have no intention to let you off too. If you hadn't reminded me I would have forgotten about it. You intentionally disrupted me when I was refining armament, with the evil intent to cause me to die. Did you think that the fall that you had was enough to let you off?" Huang Yueli smiled sweetly, and she looked pure and cute, but in Murong Ni's eyes, she felt it was terrifying. She involuntarily nudged herself backwards on the ground. What are you intending to do? I'm warning you. My father is senior brother's benefactor, everyone in the sect will help me. If you hurt me, even senior brother will not let you off." Huang Yueli replied, I know, I'm sick and tired of hearing these words. Next time when you're threatening others, can you please change some new lines? Murong Ni saw that she wasn't affected and knew instantly that something is amiss. She quickly stood up with the intention to escape. She knew now that she could not afford to offend Huang Yueli and prepared to endure with this anger for now. After all, she was a reputable sect master's daughter and surrounding her were plenty of the sect's disciples, so whenever senior brother wasn't around, she would have plenty of chances to take revenge. For now, it's best to swallow her angry. Murong Ni felt the way she had escaped was very uncomfortable, but as the situation was out of her grasp, she had no choice. Who knew, she had just ran a few steps when her head banged against a solid wall, causing a concussion to her brain and she was seeing stars spinning. Oh, so painful. She held her forehead and lifted her head to take a look, but she realized that there was no obstacle in her way. Murong Ni finally reacted and became aware that she was still within Huang Yueli's array, and it was Huang Yueli who had reactivated the array to lock her up. Behind her, Huang Yueli started to speak calmly. Trying to escape. Isn't it too early for it? Let's calculate the debts clearly first. Since the beginning when we first entered the Dark Moon Forest, you kept using underhanded methods to scheme against me. Subsequently, you lured the scarlet-eyed bloodbats and almost caused everyone to die. Next was to push me down the cliff, and now, you attempted to disrupt my refining of armament. I'm the type who dislike to owe debts, and I hate people who owe me anything. Tell me, how should I get even with you? Murong Ni felt a chill down her spine. Don't come over, what do you want to do? Don't forget, I'm a 4th degree realm practitioner and you're just at the 1st degree realm. I have with me plenty of protection aces from my daddy. If you dare to do anything to me, you will come to no good end too, ace. You won't have any chance to use it. Huang Yueli coldly taunted. You can also listen on. Murong Ni was appalled to the max and knew that she cannot hesitate further. Her fingers dug deep into her realm ring, drew out something and threw it towards Huang Yueli. Even though her action was pretty fast, Huang Yueli was faster. Before Murong Ni had a chance to strike, she felt her feet were unsteady as if something had tugged at her. Subsequently, she plopped onto the ground. The profound artifact that she held in her hands dropped onto the ground. Has no one ever told you that you should never provoke an armament master in their territory, or else you will die terribly? An armament master's nest was always filled with plenty of mechanisms, so most practitioners do not dare to barge in without permission. This array's boundaries naturally were Huang Yueli's territory. Surrounding it were some little mechanisms. Murong Ni had dared to take action against her at this type of place, so she would have a terrible ending. Huang Yueli walked over and bent down to pick up that item. It was a delicate ball-shaped profound artifact. The entire thing was dazzling with the radiance of the rainbow colors and looked exquisite. But in actual fact, this was a very powerful profound artifact and was extremely dangerous. Huang Yueli naturally recognized this. The rainbow profound photosphere, a photosphere which condenses attack power of 7 different profound energy. It can only be used once and the intensity depends on the tier of the artifact. This is a 7th tier profound photosphere, and so, just one attack is enough to launch the power of a 7th degree realm practitioner. It's no wonder you're the daughter of a big sect. This thing is worth lots of silver. You know about this too? Of course, I'm an armament master. Murong Ni, your memory is really bad. Murong bit her lips. Let me go and return the profound photosphere to me. I will let you off. Huang Yueli gave her a surprised look and chuckled. Do you think I'm dumb? Do I need to let you off? Think carefully about how you're going to beg me for mercy. As Huang Yueli was talking, under the embittered gaze of Murong Ni, she calmly kept the rainbow profound photosphere into her own realm ring. She was sighing in her heart. A daughter from a reputable sect is just rich. This 7th tier rainbow profound photosphere was worth a fortune and they just gave it to this brainless junior. But it was because of this that she could make a small fortune out of it. Huang Yueli kept the profound photosphere and bent over to pick up a long whip. This whip was Murong Ni's weapon and it was a 4th tier upper grade profound weapon. She pleaded with the sect's most powerful elderly armament master to refine it for her when she reached her marriageable age. It used up a lot of valuable and rare materials and had always been her favorite. Seeing Huang Yueli pick up the whip, she stared till her eyeballs were about to fall out. That is my whip. How dare you snatch my whip? Huang Yueli took the whip and brandished it several times to test the feel of it and lightly laughed lightly. This kind of 4th tier item, I'm not interested, so don't worry, I'll return you the whip after I'm done. Who are you trying to cheat? Once you laid your hands on such a good profound armament, would you return it? Lay it down if you have the ability. Huang Yueli's lips curled upwards and with a deep meaning, she replied, I'm not bluffing you. The reason why I'm holding it is not because I've taken a liking to it, but entirely because I want to wallop you. Murong Ni heard the words and fell into a daze. Before she had yet to come around it, Huang Yueli had already raised the whip and struck it towards her face. POW. Yueli. You dare. Murong Ni's face instantly flashed a deep and long bloody scar, causing her to scream in pain on the spot. You can also listen on. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.